Hey there, I'm Eternal, and I'm an object show fan that has barely watched any object shows. We have to fix that. Let's play Object Catchup. Hello and welcome in to Object Catch-Up, the series where we discuss Object Show episodes right after watching them. Whether they are new or old, famous or unknown, it doesn't matter. We will get to it all. Now, welcome to the BFDIA preparations day 2, because we had an entire 10 episodes of BFDIA that we needed to take a look at, starting from episode 12 all the way to episode 20. Two, of course. Now we watched all the way up to 16, which is 5, and now we have the other set of episodes, I think 6, from 17 to 22, which we're gonna need to be watching. We're gonna have this video, we're gonna cover all of them. Um, Starting from BFDA 17, which is right where we left off the other time. Yet again, if you have uploaded an episode during these past few days, I will not be capable of covering it. Yet, I'll get to everything in due time. However, for now, we have to talk BFDIA. I'd also like to mention that it is Object December, which is a new event that has been running, where pretty much a couple of people decided, to pretty much just upload videos together combined during the same month. I might make a community post more properly, showing my plans for Object December, but for now, we will keep it. Keep it on the low key because hold on, focusing on the BFDIA. All right. Let's start off here with BFDA 17. Start the shift with tons of features. For Homestar Runner, The Duck Song, Clay O'Donnell, and JelloApocalypse. This was the January 1st double upload with T-Paw 15. So there were tons of collabs everywhere and all that stuff. Let's watch it. Let's talk about it. Hello, I have just watched BFDIA 17 start the shift. So this episode, of course, arrives as a little bit of a bundle with Teapot 15, as they are both directly correlated in the whole the shift, or like dimensional shift, the shift event that they did on January 1st for both for 15 years of BFDI. So as part of that anniversary, they did the whole event. Now, of course, CPOP 15, I watched it. It was actually the episode that got me back a little bit into the scene, because I was it wasn't really the thing that got me back to the scene, but it was the thing that got me in thinking about it again, because I was completely quit from object shows, right? Because like around that late BFB era, I wasn't too into it, so then I quit for a couple of years. But however, then I started to see more discussion around those days, and eventually when TO 15 came out, it was like, this is the big deal. So then I was like, okay, I want to watch this to know what's going on in Teapot nowadays. So then I watched Teapot. I got myself mostly updated with Teapot until yeah. However, because I was updating myself with Teapot because I wanted to see Teapot 15, which was what we were talking about, then this episode ended up sort of out of the horizon, right? Like, where I didn't really feel the need to cover this episode right when we were talking about it. So yeah, that is kind of the situation. Now, this we have ourselves the situation with a needle getting brought up, and then we recover the people. I like how, yes, we're getting a lot of mileage out of the Goiki Highway 3D. I like how this one is just a gigantic ramp. Great highway, great stuff. Um, Honestly, I like Tennis Ball. Tennis Ball as a character is just kind of fun, especially especially the kind of like on their own. Like they're so like logically whimsy, which is like a type of combination that you don't actually see that often. But with Tennis Ball, you do see it. It's like a logical but whimsy character, like a scientist that's like unreasonably joyous, and it's a nice, well, especially of course when acting is a little bit of a counterbalance to golf ball. But like you can kind of feel it when Tennis Ball like there's like, yeah, we made it, yeah, like usually they make all the science and smart characters too smart. It's like, oh, I'm too smart to experience joy for simple things, right? But tennis ball is more proper, which I enjoy. So then we have our cake at stake ceremony after the LOL ends up getting banished, because who the hell wants Balloony hosting? And yeah, I agree. Who the hell wants Balloony hosting? Gotta be like three people on this earth who want Balloony hosting. I ain't gonna lie, not too many more. There's gotta be like three, one, two, one, two, trois. Um, so then they leave. They call up a random host, but apparently they call up the entirety of the WTF of the week. Well, it's not the entirety of the WTF, just kind of the main elements of the WTF. So like everybody that was properly eliminated as a contestant, because in the WTF there remains all of the Ruby sisters, right, which are filling up the damn place, but those don't count. So we just have the actual WTF members. And yeah, so we have ourselves some cake at stake. 394,000 votes. That is very high. That is a number. That is a high ass number. No, I ain't gonna tell you. It does, of course, directly correlate to the amount of videos, right? Because basically, right, the more contestants are up for elimination, the more total likes and dislikes can be given out by one person, which means that the most amount of votes happen. That's why, for example, when it was the book and Ruby 1v1, if I'm not mistaken, they got 150,000 votes, which is nice with 2 videos. Remember, this one has 6 total videos you can vote for rather than 2. So I'm pretty sure the 394,000 is realistically probably less people. You know, I'd expect it to be less people. However, it's more votes because there were more people to vote for, right? So, yeah. Anyhow, we end up having a birthday cake, and Nico wins. Everybody's surprised by how the hell Nico won. You know, I feel like even the contestants are like, wait a minute, Nico's still here. I don't know. Nico has truly not struck me as a immensely good like BFDI character, but I guess they're kind of earning their way by just kind of being the outsider to everybody else who's already made these connections. Nico kind of ends up being an outsider, kind of hanging out with tennis ball and stuff, but like not never like too much. So like yeah, they end up kind of being an outsider and being a little bit whimsy. So good job, Nico. Um, and then by 3 votes, three. Fries wins the prize, which I am impressed. I think I predicted this, but yeah, no, by 3 votes. I'm sorry? Are we for real right about now? That is crazy. Um, but yeah, then Fries actually wins the prize, which is incredible. They end up getting immunity to the final 6 because that's what they agreed to do. So that's fair. Um, then we end up having they could have apparently removal of a contestant's existence, which, to be fair, if you think about it, would have done nearly the same thing. Well, I mean, it depends. Would the removal of a contestant's existence be the same thing as them getting eliminated? Probably, right? So that's fair. But yeah, I mean, fry space immunity because they're like that. Then eventually, tennis ball and the coiny are the first ones safe. So good job to those two. Then we have uh the last two, which is pencil and needle. And you know what? I was wrong. I was hella wrong. The pencil ends up getting eliminated with 2,000 more votes than Free Smart Needle, as Wobunch Needle ended up getting quite a bit more support. I'm surprised by this because Needle threw so hard for both teams. So it was like, wow. But I guess there was one major detail which I had not accounted for. The detail which I had not accounted for was that Pencil was getting a little bit mean. And mean character bad, but Pencil was getting like annoyingly mean. Like you can get away with it sometime, but when it's like the 3rd episode where Needle actually does useful things for Free Smart, and Pencil's like, no, fuck off. Then it's like, okay, well, that's a little bit complicated. So I see why the viewers end up putting it out. I didn't exactly factor this in because I thought, Nito threw the challenge. They're kind of weird. They don't have allegiances. Both fan base aren't really gonna like it. But okay then. So we do actually have Pencil eliminated, which is surprising. I keep thinking of Pencil as like not necessarily immortal being, but like as this super fan favorite. When like in terms of vote to eliminate, they actually do get quite a lot of them. They get usually close to prizes, but like also pretty close to eliminations as well. So Pencil is officially gone and comes in as part of the WTF. So then we have ourselves a nice pair of team switching, which ends up being the new teams. So Nito, after getting everybody on their side, everybody trying to pair up with them, the Wobans, the Free Smart, and even Tennis Ball for some reason, and Nico, who is also here. You see, Nico, in my opinion, in BFDIA right now, is the epitome of that sentence. I am also here. That is what Nico has been doing. Like this entire in this episode, then they're pretty important, but like on average, they're just kind of like added on to any conversation. Um, so Nito decides to bail from everything and just go like, Fries, I'm with you now because I can't decide, so I'll just be neutral and pick none of them. So fair enough. Fries actually has a teammate for once. I know, right? Crazy. I bet you considering Fries is immune, which makes sense though, because you kind of gotta give him a pairing if he doesn't have to do the challenge, right? So that's fair. Challenge: be your truest self. Everybody has had a mild switch in their selves, other than Coiny and Needle. So that's fair. I don't know how it's clear that everybody has encouraged them all to no. Um, then we end up having the whole machine. Book asks, and then they get absolutely torn apart because to not look like their truest selves. But when you do look like your proper self, you can go into the machine and be Gucci. So they all come in. We have Coiny immediately safe and Nito immediately safe. Fries isn't safe because they're blue. Tennis Ball has the cake splatter around them. Pin, of course, has no limbs, which ends up being a problem. And then we have the solution. Now, how does a character get revived? If they die, they will proceed to get respawned in their proper state, right? So since that's what they're doing, that's what they should realistically do. One team has this idea. The team that has this idea is the Fries Needle team, right? Because they decide that if Fries is dead, then we can respawn Fries unbluified. And yeah, however, the issue is that the blue apparently never actually kills Fries. It regens Fries, which is interesting. Although I am gonna point out that I guess we haven't ever seen it get tested, right? Because Fries isn't capable of thinking or seeing when, of course, they're all splattered up and dead. But then they get revived by the thing. So if you use the recovery center while the splatter is still going, would that revive Fries? If you think about it, it's a very interesting little conundrum because you could probably revive Fries while the blue Fries is dead, right? So then it counts as being dead. But then the blue Fries auto revives, and then you just have two Fries. Like that's just a thing that can realistically probably happen, which is interesting. I would be quite a fan of seeing something along those lines happen, to be honest, because that's just kind of cool, isn't it? It's just merely that cool, right? So I hope that we get to see something along those lines in one of these episodes for sure, because yeah. But then everybody else that it would also have applied for them with both Tennis Ball with the fuzz, although of course it's not really needed. With Book with the free smart, and then with the other one, and no, Pin probably gets recovered like that because of the way, because they're like this permanently, the channel, and Nickel as well. So Nickel just tries to get their chunk back, if I'm not mistaken, which ends up being quite a little bit of a situation. Um, so they just try to get it back from the back of Tennis Ball, which they don't get. Now, my opinion is that I don't fit. Look, because of the way that the gag in this episode is spread out, we don't ever get to see Nick will actually scan it with the chunk. Like half scanning it get pushed out, right? However, in my eyes, I don't think that works anyways. In my opinion, I don't think that nickel with the chunk works anyways because of how big the outline it is around it. Like it's not a smooth circle. You would notice that something ain't right. So I think that that wouldn't have worked anyways. I think the only way for nickel to have gone by was to be dead, right? However, the problem is that these team members, I guess they can't consider the strategy of being dead, because if you're dead, then who's gonna recover you? You know? Like, who's gonna recover you if we're all in solo teams, pretty much, right? The only team that can think of that is Fries and Needle, because Needle wants to be safe. So for that, you gotta yo with Fry, right? So that way you would revive Fries. Technically, I would debate that maybe Book would be capable of doing it, right? Because there is the free smart people, and I mean, well, they don't. Well, the hosts don't necessarily wanna show favoritism. It's free smart. They got like 4 brain cells. They would revive you. It's like if you asked. So yeah, Neko finds a pair of yo-yo light and then it pairs it up with the pair of freaking the blue thing from Fries, the Yoyolian whatever, and ends up doing that. And eventually they end up accidentally making a machine that can hopefully get the fuzz out, and they get them to do that. But in the meantime, Book comes in to get a makeover. If I'm not mistaken, this is I think where all of the freaking features are, the ones listed in the description, because they send you down to the lower floor. They go, hey, I need this for this, and then it's like, hey, below, hey, I need this for this. So then you have to make the entire journey to get something until you get you go to the next floor and then the next floor and then the next floor. I like this gag, especially if some of the things are sewed up. Like, what? You're not gonna give me a first aid kit? Like it's really goofy. It's like, I want my musical career back. Yet again, I find Panflute quite funny. Because you just, again, like these characters that have celebrity, quote unquote. I say quote unquote. That's disrespectful. That have like celebrity appearances. I always just find it funny because then they just have to write it into other episodes, and it's like, yo, Kevin McLeod, we need you. We need you, Kevin. Kevin, don't leave. So okay. That's what they're doing. Um, but anyhow, they end up doing that. They eventually get the fuzz out of the tennis ball, but then they accidentally press it or land on it on accident, I think, while trying to get the little chunk back. So that ends up being quite a little bit of a mess. In the meanwhile, Coiny and Pin are thinking about the yo-yo light, because we're like, yo, I need my limbs back. How the hell do I get my limbs back? So then they decide to go down to the case and grab Yo-Yo Light. They don't really know what they're gonna do with the Yo-Yo Light. However, maybe it can help out. Which, what, valid assessment, especially if you just know Yo-Yo Light as a powerful thing that does shit. Right? If you just consider it as powerful thing that does shit, then yes, the yo-yo light would be capable of recovering limbs. And like, it makes sense. So the yo-yo light itself as a concept is, I think, one that has been quite heavily criticized throughout the course of the past couple of months, especially like during the Teapot 20 stuff, because they have made it so integral to everything happening, right? Like, it's pretty much just if you have yo-yo light, you are the power. That's pretty much how it's always. That's pretty much how the lore of the yo-yo light goes, right? It's just that yo-yo light is literally, it's time shifting. And if an algebra in the hand, they gain superpowers, right? And it ends up being mass chaos, and then it's like, okay, Okay then. Personally, I don't necessarily mind as long as they're relatively consistent with it, which they kind of are. Do they overuse the usage of why is this like this? Oh, because yo-yo like maybe a teensy bit overall, not necessarily in this episode, but maybe a teensy bit overall in the franchise. However, I mean, yeah, when you have this ultra powerful mineral that apparently the ancient Yoyolians made a wonder of the world with, then yeah, okay, fair enough, right? Still makes me wonder what the hell happened to Yo-Yo Land. To Yo-Yo City. I really want to know. I really want to know what the hell happened to Yo-Yo City. You know, I need me a BFDI spinoff show set 600 years ago in a functional Yo-Yo City. I really do. But eventually, book ends up. I think getting that makeover. Or wait, hold on. What? How is this ordered? Oh yeah, so Tennis Ball and Nickel, yeah, they end up going back around to the past a couple of times. They end up actually going more. If you think about it, they actually end up going more into the future every single time they swap because they go from 2017, I think, to 2021 to 2024. So even though they were trying to get back to their timeline, they've actually screwed up and gone into the future. However, the nickel chunk ends up always being in a different place, so they end up eventually begrudgingly going after the yo-yo light and the yo-yo chunk because they're like, yo, we can't leave this here because this is a thing from the past into the future, right? Back to the Future. That's a movie. Now, so Tennis was fine. It's like, fine, okay, you stupid ass chunk. So they end up doing all that. But we end up at some relatively inconspicuous times, thankfully. Like the only necessary like new people that they see is like the some of the freaking rubber spatula and the kitchen sink, right? Those people. Those are the only ones that 2015 MC. Because like if they dare to see like two or something, then that might have been GG. I don't know what would have happened in that situation, but I don't think it would have been. I don't know. I don't think it would have been good if they saw like four. If they saw like four or something. That would have been bad times. I ain't gonna lie. So they got kind of lucky with the specific times they teleported them. I think one of them ends up being aligned to about Boto and stuff. So then we got like, oh my god, that's crazy, right? So yeah, they end up having a make. So Book ends up eventually getting the makeover because they end up chasing after Fries, because Fries end up going into the city with the Leafy detector, which makes it. I mean, makes Needle mildly more suspicious because it's like, what on Leafy, right? Somehow, okay. I gonna be absolutely for real. I don't know how they don't clock this. The detector is green. It's not an evil leafy detector. It's a leafy detector. Even Fries says that it's a leafy detector, not an evil leafy detector. And it's like, well, hold on, how the hell did you not clock this? But okay, sure. I mean, I guess that Leafy's dead, but no, Leafy's not like Leafy didn't. He's not dead. Leafy just ran away for like a million years. Was that was what happened? No, so that's like kind of crazy. But then they have a couple of things. Nito tries to chase after them for being the teammate. Oh yeah, eventually Pin and Coiny run after Evil Leafy because okay. So the tactic that team comes up with, the Fry Smart team, they come up with the tactic of okay, when Evil Leafy took over my body, I was very red. So if I can't die, right, and turn back to my normal self because of the weird thing that I have that makes me immortal, then we can use Evil Leafy, take over my body. That way, I am a red. Which I'm like neon red, which is not the correct color. However, it's at least closer to the correct color than usual, which I will say I respect. I respect that line of logic. I think that there's a lot of logic to that line. To be honest, there's a lot of logic to that line. Wow, what am I saying? I'm saying words and shit. Never just say words. Never just say random stuff. Okay, but like there is a lot of logic. There really was not much better for them to do. I would have still probably tried to recover Fries while half dead in that state to see if the machine would have rejected it, but they never actually try it. But other than that, it's the best possible outcome, for Fries. So, I accept it. Then we end up having, oh yeah, we end up having a cool variant of the hit running gag with all the recommended characters and we're running around them and stuff. Um, then again, Book eventually gets the superstore and it does successfully scan themselves in. However, the problem is that they accidentally say the color's wrong, which means that their book cover is backwards. Damn it. It's flipping mirrored. Book is mirrored now. It's just so over. Um, and then at the end of the day, because Tennis Ball and Nickel just end up absolutely stumbling over each other, and like exploding or whatever. Coiny just desperately tries to get pinned by just faking it into the machine, and you know what? It works. It works because I guess okay. I don't think it worked because of the limbs thing. I don't think it worked because of the limbs thing, but you know what I think it is? I think that what it probably was occurring was that the self that you respawn as, all right, is considered your truest self. Because Pin doesn't currently have limbs. Pin originally had limbs, but now they've lost them, so they've changed. So I think the self that you regenerate as is your truest self in terms of like what the machine considers it, which means that Pin with no machine, right? So aka the one that respawns, is the truest self of Pin that there currently is. So basically, yeah, the respawn selves are the ones that do it, which is interesting, I think. So like if Book died, they would have respawned the correct cover, and it would have been fine. If Nickel died, I don't know if they would have respawned with the chunk or without the chunk. However, they would have still been alright. Because I mean, again, it's one of those things where it'd be weird if Nickel died, but then they respawned because like the chunk would still be there, but now they'd have the chunk again. So it's like, how does that work, right? But that's my presumption. So yeah, they just presume that Pin needs the limbs, but no, Pin doesn't need it. Pin independent, no need no limb. All right, so yeah, the WTF ends up being the final host of um episode at the end of it. Did I like it? I kind of liked it because it was kind of funky to see it. Yet again, we get reasons to use the other contestants, right? When it's like, there's still so much that we can rant with them, but we're just having them eliminated. So every episode progressively gets more and more closed down, and there's like less and less character, which in a way is nice. However, at the same time, it's also cool to see some of the fellas that we won't get to see again for a while, right? Because Teapot doesn't have any of that stuff. And yet again, BFB is old at this point, so it's nice to get a little bit of like that counteracting measure here from these characters. So like having the Locker Losers host before is cool. Having the WTF host, it's cool. So yeah. And then at the end, Leafy decides to teleport in front of Icy to talk to Icy. Not exactly sure why, but they do. And then eventually our final scene ends up explaining how the hell the yo-yo light ended up getting chambered off in the middle of of like an underground factory. That way, in Teapot 15, you start when of course one ends up getting access to it. It all makes more sense. You see, they're writing shit and stuff right there to get it to work. It's I guess one of the possible virtues is that technically, since you're writing BFDIA now, which takes place an entire 10 years before your present day, that also means that you're like good to go in terms of like doing stuff in the past is going to set up the future, right? Because like the fact that BFDIA 17 is setting up Teapot 15 is something that can only happen with this very specific situation that they're in. So you know what? Let them take advantage of the situation. Hey, if the situation that they're in is that they can do this, then sure, let them be a little bit mildly inconsistent, um, and then do all that stuff. So okay, all right, cool. Anyhow, the elimination. I didn't actually talk about it. I completely forgot to talk about the elimination. Who the hell gets eliminated? Tennis ball, book, needle, or nickel? Bro. I mean, yet again, teapot is important. So tennis ball gets a prize, in my opinion. But then who the hell gets the eliminated? Or book might get the prize. I'm gonna say nickel gets eliminated. This is the time. Nickel, you gotta go. You gotta. It's time to go. it's, Nickel, it's time to go. Okay, I'm tired of you being the outsider. Come on. It's time to go. Nobody else getting eliminated. I'm saying Nickel gets out, and I'm saying Tennis Ball gets the prize, even though it could be Book. Okay, that's all. Let's go for the next episode, the BFDIA 18, which is titled Airplanes in the Night Sky. Let's watch it. Hello, I have just watched BFDIA 18 Airplanes in the Night Sky. Now, what a little episode this is. This is quite I mean, I would probably guess that this gets iconic episode tier for a lot of people. This feels like that type of episode that ends up getting really, really enjoyed and really, really discussed. To be honest, it feels like exactly like that style of episode, to be honest. But we end up having, first of all, the beginning here with for some reason Fries has set up a shop with digging tools, but anyways, I mean this initial gag is entirely so that we can get rid of the superstore, because we had like yet again 1 billion guests as part of the superstore. So for the next episode, we need to kind of like, find a way to quickly go like, yo, cool stuff, but we can't keep you out here. Which, yeah, true. Um, so I guess that is the way that things tend to be. So yeah. However, we then have ourselves an intro. Oh, yeah, by the way, the intro switches. I don't know if the intro has ever been wrong. But I think it's always correct. But I do kind of enjoy that there's a Yo-Yo Land variant of the intro to this day. But yeah, I'm not sure if I'm gonna have as much to say about this episode in specific as the other ones, because as I've said yesterday, a more action oriented episode ends up being way more difficult to actually like discuss properly, and this is definitively the definition of a very, very action themed episode. Like that's just kind of the way that it goes. But eventually Fries is dead, apparently, because they exploded, right? So if I'm not mistaken, yeah, they crashed with tennis ball into the thing, and of course there was the yo-yo light and the yo-yo Leon energy in there. So like, there's just so much going on um around where the Fries ends up exploding and not remaining blue, which yet again it's a little convenient, but it's nice to see regular Fries back. Like, it's very rare that we see a permanent design change, like the only time you ever see is like, for example, with the pin Mexu, or with leafy metal, right, or with freaking currently, I guess, Niku. Like, but those are like the only times. Any other time that a character switches design for a bit, it's like a temporary thing, and then something gets like invented so that they don't keep that design up. Which makes sense, because of course all the characters are relatively kind of design, but BFDA is quite a design to allow stuff. We have a new cake and steak theme for I think the second episode in a row because in the first time, Fiery, Balmy, and like Gelatin sang it, but badly. But in this case, everybody sings it at a little bit of a higher quality. So good job. I'm surprised that Golf Ball sang it. I'm gonna be honest, but it ends up being quite nice. I really like how the sky is drawn. In that intro, I'm not gonna lie, it looks very pretty. It looks like an aurora borealis. Ice Cube ends up being gone, and then we have ourselves the prize, which is won by a tennis ball graph, courtesy of Golf Bar. Enjoy that. But so this is interesting. I like how Fries nearly doesn't get at the bottom, despite the fact that they literally aren't in the episode. But I guess of course they can get a prize. They can't get eliminated, but they can get a prize. But I mean, yeah, you can kind of feel how much people were into, I guess that teapot range, especially with tennis ball and nickel, right? So like those two, they just shoot up. They absolutely monstrously demonstrate to be of just a higher standard than the rest of them, to be honest. Um, uh, in terms of the likes, because people just thought that the event was cool. The challenge ends up being a disbandment token, which permanently allows a team to disband, which you can't use it on on nickel. So yeah, Fried is immune. Then the first person who immune is Tennis Ball, and then the final one eliminated ends up being Nickel by about 10, but no, by about 1,000 over Needle. Yeah. Nickel, I guess, had that debate going on of like, you see how they nearly got the most likes, but they also got the most dislikes. It was kind of the debate because, of course, the event was cool, but Nickel directly nearly destroyed the universe. Right? Like those two things nearly both happen, right? So like one of them's cool and one of them isn't cool. So they end up having the people who think the event's cool, so they like Nico's video, or the people that think that he was kind of dumb and a little bit like goofy and threw the challenge like 3 times, and could have gotten scanned but didn't. So then it's like, okay, that makes sense. Vote them out, right? So yeah, I can absolutely see that to why they would do that. To be TBH, I am quite an enjoyer of Nico getting out, to be honest. Like, I mean, you can see how even everybody in the cast was feeling Nico didn't really make any sense to still be here, was just kind of tagging along to whoever, right? Everybody ended up having such this bond in BFDIA, and Nico just kind of exists. um which makes everything a little bit more complex, a little bit more complicated. With everybody just existing. And Nico was already an outsider. To be honest, Nico has been an outsider for a while. To be honest, the last time Nico properly didn't feel like an outsider, maybe I don't know when Bommy was around. Like it's been a while. Yeah, and even Tennis Ball is like hilariously annoying. Tennis Ball ends up, I guess, just having the nickel chunk with like I guess eats it on accident. So yeah. They obviously use it on the Woe Bunch, which means that, as far as I'm aware, this is the first challenge where there is fully solo. Like, I'm pretty sure this is the first challenge in BFDIA where it's fully solo v solo. There's absolutely no teams going on here at all. It's just a 1v1 v1 v1 v1. We're officially merged because of course I mean nobody really wants a team of anyway. I mean, yeah, because Needle's trying to play independent now. Tennis Ball don't got no golf ball. Fried is always solo. Coiny and Pin are forced to split up, and Book's the only free smarter, right? So yeah, you just end up there's no way any of them are teaming. Maybe Nick, no, not Nick. Maybe Needle could team up with somebody again. Maybe if she eventually changed her mind. Ice Cube desperately wants to leave after seeing Leafy. So okay. Then we have ourselves the Fry Smart Mobile, which gets us to a new place, which is pretty solid. This does look cool. I don't know what place this is, by the way. I need the map. Is this a place that's like on any map? Because we know that of course there's the map of Yoil, and like what place is this? The place of the Watchtower, the Watchtower Palace. Like what it like it's kind of near the forest, but not really. But Yeah, the challenge wheel ends up being to light up the sky. So there are three beacons that you can turn on each side, and then once you have your completed picture, you will be winning. All right. So this challenge is theoretically, of course, quite a bit complicated. It's in general a race where you kind of have to, I guess, dodge your opponents, play smart. One of them has only an elevator. You got to remember. One of them has stairs, and the other one is a ladder. So, in general, this originally starts off as being a race, right? Because like the idea was that you got up, and everybody was kind of playing by the rules. That you can turn on your beacon, but you can't turn off any other beacons or turn on any other beacons as well. I guess I don't know why you would want to turn on any other beacons, but like, I guess that would be a thing that you could potentially do. However, it then turns out that no, that is not what they're doing anymore. Because you actually can turn off the other beacons, right, in the map, which then causes a little bit of a havoc because it's like, okay, then we have to both, like, it's impossible to protect three things at the same time, even two things at the same time, because the towers are so spread apart, right? So then we end up having a big problem, right? How the hell do we protect all of these towers at the same time? um and the answer, if I'm not mistaken, ends up being like, I don't know, I think it ends up being roughly around then. Most people struggle. Then a couple of ideas get brought out. Mainly the tennis ball is trying to solve it because otherwise they were just gonna have another infinite loop. We have a lot of these infinite loop gifts, obviously in BFDIA. This one is no exception. This one is definitely an infinite loop gift to have on the equation. However, yeah. But yeah, there's one thing that I'm kind of not so that what I am surprised by actually is that I'm shocked that nobody actually attempts to get rid of the freaking lever, like just straight up yank it out. Because I'm surprised that like tennis ball, while thinking of that stuff, doesn't actually think of the idea of just yanking it out. Because that felt like one of the tactics that would be the most functional to me, because I don't know what else really was gonna work in that situation, like it's like, because like, really, what else would work? Like, you could make the levers not work. You could apparently change the beacon position, which I think somebody does try. Yeah, they do try to change the beacon position of the laser for tennis balls themselves. However, even then, even at that point, the like when later tallying up the results, it said that 2 out of 3 were on. So I don't know if they necessarily had to be coordinated perfectly in the sky as their own beacon, but it turns out that like whatever. If I'm not mistaken, before Needle was definitely the fastest one. Um, just kind of has a lot of raw speed. So I think in the capabilities of trying to, if we were gonna still be playing by the rules of you can't turn off somebody else's token, then that's probably what happened. They would have just kind of kept, they would have just kind of kept moving, to be honest, and the needle would have probably won, which at the end of the day here doesn't end up being the case because of a whole shenanigan. Needle still tries to be faster than everybody else, but ends up kind of a disaster. If I'm not mistaken, tennis ball like tapes together every single stick together. Let me actually follow the events of the episode for a moment. Hold on. Fries ends up dying quite often in this episode, but in general, it ends up being quite a little bit of a situation. Book is having a pretty abysmal go around. Tennis ball and that incredibly long flight of stairs ends up being a big issue because they're struggling. Yeah, Book just absolutely has a demolishingly bad. And then Nito randomly in the middle decides, playing for myself. I'm going to play for myself. Nito now has decided to take the exact perfect polar opposite approach to what she has been doing the entire time. Because there's one thing that Nito forgot is that you can do two things. And at the same time, you are indeed capable of being helpful and gaining help while also not necessarily, like helping out everybody else. Like you can, like there can be a mutual respect going on, right? But yeah, no, Nito decides to take it from one on the end of the extreme where we're literally helping out every team at the same time to the other end of the spectrum where we're helping out nobody, even your closest friends. And so I was like, okay, bro, Nito, please, I need you to not do this. Um, the sky does look absolutely pretty as hell, by the way. I don't know who exactly was in charge of doing that. But hey, whenever we have episodes set in space or in the night, all right, like episodes where you actually are incentivized to look at the sky, you better make the sky look pretty because the sky, the night sky, is one of the prettiest things that exist. Just kind of in the world. So you absolutely gotta make do with it. And in this case, it does a relatively good job for sure. With all the sparkles and stuff, and especially the beacons in the sky, they glow themselves quite well. So yeah, Fries ends up dying a couple of times. Tennis ball ends up conveniently falling down quite a bit. Then it ends up being quite a little bit like a book just sticks to the pin. And Pin doesn't notice like nearly the entire time. Fries ends up being capable of recovering themselves, which is interesting. I swear another character could do that. I swear I've seen this thing happen before. Bro, what? Who did that? I don't even remember. I don't know, bro. Because there was another character that absolutely 100% could do that. But I cannot tell you who it is right now off the top of my head. Bro, it's definitely in Teapot. Oh my god. Nah. Or is it in Teapot? I don't remember. But there was definitely another character I could do it. I don't remember if they also had the yo-yo powers when they did it. But, yeah, Fries ends up. We take full advantage to kill off Fries about 1 million times. Then yeah, there's the infinite loop. And then a couple of people, yeah, you see, they invent different strategies. You can be faster, we can try to kill people, we can do a bunch of stuff. You can notice how so many people start not liking Pin now. And it's interesting how like the contestants dislike a Pin. I wonder if that ever goes into the audience, which is interesting. But like Pin in the audience, Pin's perception right now, as of this moment in BFDI 18, must be crazy. I don't know if it's extremely good or extremely like it feels like it's that type of character that would be extremely polarizing. Because on one hand, Pin is cool, right? In the way that they have the mech suit and stuff. They're kind of sick and they have a cool personality. But at the same time, they're also mean and evil. And especially after this episode with the whole Coiny betrayal or whatever, right? Where we're not helping out Coiny. Like, then it's like, and like Coiny revives Pin, but Pin doesn't like help out Coiny. Then it's like, some people are really going to go to dislike Pin, but also some people really like Pin. It's like, yeah, go get him, Book, go get Book. So such deserved, right? So that ends up being quite a thing. The recovery centers end up recovering the other people. We have some more Free Smart shenanigans as the Free Smart ends up recovering Nito. You can tell that Free Smart has truly grown fond of Nito in this episode, and Nito ends up kind of thinking about it, be like, "Wait, I thought I wasn't. Am I? Oh no." That was kind of the thing. Is like, "Oh no, I thought you didn't like me, but you do. But now I'm playing solo, so now I don't like you back." It's that type of like reverse acceptance. Free Smart took exactly the level of time needed to accept Nito. That means that it took too long, and Nito now doesn't accept Free Smart back. And it's like, bruh. It's like bruh, which is interesting. I don't really know why Free Smart suddenly really accepts Nito. Because, okay, there was that whole save, quote unquote, with in the last episode, right? Where they're like, oh, yeah, he didn't kill us. But which is cool. But at the same time, they did make them lose the challenge. So then they were immediately back to being upset at Nito. So I don't know why this episode suddenly Nito's back to being in a proper position where even Pencil is defending Nito compared to Ice Cube. Like that is kind of crazy. So I ain't gonna lie. But yeah, Fry is just immediately just trolling everything. What is this? Like, bro, the freaking needle spin tornado into the freaking next section, into through the ocean. Nah, the free smart fellas are fun. Like, at the end of the day, the power of BFDIA resides in how whimsical so much of its cast is. Because, like, really, who isn't whimsical in this cast right now? Like, genuinely, that's like the main power of BFDIA. It's like it's not that it can't be necessarily serious, but other than Pin and Coiny, okay, other than those two, um, everybody else is pretty much entirely just joy and whimsy. Like everybody who's eliminated ends up showing up. It's like Free Smart is super whimsical. The other WTFers are pretty much just represented by Coiny and Gelatin, which that is the duo of all time. Right. Um, and out of the contestant, Fries doesn't really care and is always there to crack a nonchalant joke. Tennis Boy is always very excited about stuff, right? Nido is Nido is playing pretty strategic, but it kind of in a funny way. And then there's Payne and Courtney, which are kind of they bring the level a bit back down because Payne is super upset, right? So Payne is doing a little bit of that revenge act in a way or another. So we end up having like a little bit of a okay, relaxed, relaxed situation where there is not just all fun and games because there's Payne here, and then of course there's Leafy or whatever is going on with Leafy. I mean, Leafy currently, as of these episodes, has done nothing more than just be in a bush and observe, which has just been beating Leafy the entire season. But like, yeah, eventually Leafy spoke to Ice Cube, and Ice Cube was like, "Let's go," which no idea. Until eventually, yeah, yet again we have a bunch of battles, because it's like you see, it's like Tennis Ball has the idea of locking the freaking thing together. Where it's like, okay, sure, lock it together, but why don't you just rip it out, right? Because if you rip out the lever, it's not gonna get switched. I don't know why nobody ever thought of this idea. I was like, look, friggin' Tennis Ball can make a lock in 1 second. Like they are more than capable of topping down a lever. Like if you're gonna chop that your lever is on, nobody would have ever flipped it. Or even better, do all the other ones as off, get rid of the entire system, and then none of those levers are ever gonna get switched on, which nobody can ever complete this challenge. That felt like a very valid tactic for me to do. Absolutely. I would have tried that out once I discovered that it's not just a race, right? That you can actually mess with other people's things and not get disqualified. So, yeah. Then we end up having, get Courtney revised Pin. Pin gets mildly upset at it for like, yo, if you wanted to win, don't revive me. That's true. Then Pin eventually, Pin freaking just electrifies the whole shebang. Fried eventually drops, drills out everything else. The thing falls, and then we have our epic death scene at the end. Brutal book death, by the way. Like that's a brutality. I ain't even gonna lie. Like using the drill from Fries to drill Book out and eventually make it and win. Like that's kind of crazy too. And I gotta admit, the animation that played when Pin completed the emblem, the entire sky earning its redness. That was sick. That was a sick animation. Ruby is very excited about this. That makes sense. I mean, the one person safe, everybody else is up for elimination. Hoo-wee. Okay. Yeah, I don't know what the perception is of Pin. I think Pin being safe in this episode is important. Because if Pin wasn't safe in this episode, then it was GG. Like, I think that Pin definitely gets eliminated in any other situation. We saw that Mech Pin isn't invulnerable to being in bottom twos and stuff, right? Like, I think they were in bottom two like 2 episodes ago. Especially here, as they've been kind of mean to Coiny as well. It's not just that they were mean to Freesmart, which okay, sure, revenge plan, whatever. They're mean to Coiny as well, and it's like, whoa. But Pin is safe, which means that Pin gets to buy, right? Like usually how it works with the mean characters are like, as long as you win, you can usually be mean in your episode because like the amount of voting mindset permanence usually isn't that high, right? Which means that in the next episode, if Pin it acts relatively okay and then gets up for Elam, they'll be fine even if this episode happened because usually that voting permanence doesn't matter. Usually from episode to episode, right? People judge based on what happened in the episode rather than what happened in the grander scheme of things, right? Which makes sense, makes perfect sense. I mean, especially because most people watch, yeah, mainly the episodes are the voters are the ones who are in the video the earliest, and the ones in the video the earliest are going to be the ones who didn't, of course, rewatch a lot of our episodes, right? Of course, you can come up with a lot of your own preconceived notions and all that stuff, but whatever. Okay. But I think Pin ends up being heavily safe because I think Pin gets eliminated in every situation. Coiny gets the prize, absolutely. Coiny gets the sympathy of surely. Book, of course, dies out right next, but like Coiny has to get the sympathy here. Um, like the sympathy prize for just being like, yo, you did so much work with your buddy only to get betrayed. You deserve a prize. So Coiny gets the prize on this one. Elimination wise, this one's complicated. Um, Bro, huh? Who does get eliminated? Probably Fries. But it could be neat. No, probably Fries. I say, huh? I don't know. Hold on. Wait, what? Who gets eliminated? Wait, I'm thinking Fries mainly because of nobody else really feeling like an option. Because Needle is interesting. They're doing the whole solo. Like, yeah, go get them. I feel like they're not gonna get eliminated, even though they didn't really help out their team, so they could be in the bottom two. I feel like Needle and Fry's bottom two, because Tennis Ball is kind of funky, apologetic, and Book probably like, oh come on, you're all so close, right? And Free Smarter support. So I think Book is safe, Tennis Ball safe, and Fry's and Needle in the bottom two. Fries kind of didn't do that much. They were mainly the gag of the episode, but they did kind of throw the challenge a couple of different times. Not claiming Book's help, giving the drill to Pin primarily, right? Meanwhile, Needle threw the challenge in terms of like the playing solo strategy, which you think's cool, but Needle ended up getting backstabbing a bunch of like being like, "Yo, Tennis Ball, want to help? Yo, Book, want to help? No, 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 I'm not gonna help. I'm gonna backstab you." Right? So Nito ends up pretty much being mean to everybody, while Fries ends up just kind of doing some wrong decisions for the sake of it being funny. But I think at this stage in the game, even though Fries is BFDIA at its core, I don't know what it is about Fries. Fries just works perfectly in BFDIA, and in nearly no object show, in my opinion, Fries would work out and make it as far as he did here. I think it's time to go. Just not taking the competition seriously. And, at this point, we start to build allegiances for so many of the other characters here that I think it's probably Fries' time to go. It's Fries or Nito, in my opinion. I couldn't see anybody else currently getting eliminated. But, yeah, that episode was pretty cool. We got to see the night sky, and, the night sky is pretty. So, yeah. It is time to head to the 19th episode of BFDIA, which is titled Egg Emoji. So yeah, it's not gonna work correctly when it's freaking displayed on the thing. It's not gonna work correctly, which is annoying, but I promise that it's gonna be there. All right, let's watch it. Let's talk about it. Let's do all that stuff. How many episodes are left? 19, 20, 21, 22. 4 episodes? Okay, we can do this. Ooh, let's go. Hello, I have just finished watching BFDA 19 Egg. Now, before I am going to point out that I'm 99% sure that it is not going to work in the little screen that you're seeing right now. The title is going to say BFDIA 19 question mark. Sometimes I change the font to make it work, but I decided to just kind of not do that. Just simply for ease, because then it absolutely messes up editing process and it takes me ages. So I decided to just keep the font the way it is for now. And look, you know what episode it is, because BFDA 19 is not as bad. It was a title that was like entirely an emoji, then I change it. But like just egg, okay, egg emoji. That's the title that you see. It's not question mark, it's egg emoji. Okay, all right, cool. So we have ourselves the freaking thingy where they bring over the HPRC to the barren wasteland because, well, Ice Cube really wants it to not be there, because Ice Cube saw Leafy the other day and was like, yo, I cannot deal with this lady for any more than 3 seconds. I'm dipping. All right, so the idea was to get out of Yoyo Land because Leafy's in Yoyo Land. Okay, now we did not consider the detail that Leafy could just follow you. I don't know why we didn't. I don't like Leafy didn't have to live in Yoyo Land, you know. I end up knowing in this episode because Leafy isn't even in Yoyo Land this episode. So like the whole idea of let's go to a different place is like the most pointless thing of the century, to be honest. So yeah, I mean that's one of the things, but okay. Gobo is very upset. Gelatin and Fire are just swinging on the slide. Dude, they're like, oh my god, I'm making things fall because of how goofy these two are. Gobo nearly wins. No, not Gobo. Tennis Ball nearly wins immediately because Gelatin would just say, yeah, you win, but oh well. A time to do Cake at Stake because they bring over the original Cake at Stake. Remember that place? Well, it's officially back. Yippee! With a mildly new design with more wood to it. And we have a new Kick a Stick song. Yes, the song is back. Um, I hope that this song actually sticks because I don't know. I feel like the past 4 episodes have had 3 different Kick a Stick themes or something. Like we've had at least 3 themes for the last 3 episodes. You know, like it's been a while since we had like the disco theme. Then we had, I think, another one maybe in the middle. We know we had the first one of the WTF singing, then we had the top one of the WTF singing, and now we have this one, which is very solid. It's very classic style, but of course with it's classic style song with a high animation budget and quality, which is quite nice, which yeah, I definitely enjoy. I must say that I hope this sticks. You know, I hope we get a Cake and Steak theme that sticks because like the thing about the Cake and Steak themes is that they end up so iconic, right? Even though they change semi frequently. Back in the original BFDI, they ended up so iconic because at the end of the day, that's the thing that plays, right? And since it's the thing that plays, it's the thing that's gonna stick in your mind. It's kind of like how a BFDI intro or a BFB intro, a Teapot intro ends up pretty iconic because it just plays every time. You know, so you end up seeing it a lot throughout. When a Cake and Steak theme changes every episode, then it's like, okay, I mean, it's cool that a Cake and Steak that we're getting new Cake and Steak themes, but at the same time, none of them are ever going to stick out to me as a special one because they're not keeping it the same. So I really hope they stick with this one because it's very high production value, and it'd be nice if we got to have a more memorable Kick and Steak theme for once after the last few ones have been ditched over about as quickly as they dropped into the game. All right. So here the WTFers end up hosting Cake and Steak here yet again. Coiny has been sleeping in the tower for a while, and Pin is there now, just being absolutely the most obliteratingly annoying fella possible. There, Pin has turned into mean mode. Now here's the deal. Okay, here's the thing about Pin. This works sometimes. Okay, because like the way that this vibe is off with Pin reminds me of Flower. Pin is reminding me a lot of Flower in BFDI and BFB because it's like a main character is cooked in a situation like this from the beginning, right? However, in certain situations, if you're meaner, like you start like people start to accept a meaner character heading into a late game way more than they do at the start. If at the start you're kind of mean, then you make a worse first impression, and when everybody else's first is kind of neutral, then you get out of the chopping block. But when we already know a lot about each character and they get so much screen time, a mean character can survive. That's how we've had characters like Flower make it to the very top of their respective season, making it very far because they drop out early. Because however, they eventually manage to rise themselves back onto a region or whatever. Pin is kind of doing this because Pin, kind of was okay, then disappeared in the midseason because they literally demolished her limbs and stuff. But then came back as a mean character, right? As the quote unquote mean one, right? Especially because there's such an absence of other mean characters going on right now that we kind of needed a new one. So fair enough. Pin ends up now acting as the mean one, quote unquote, and they get to survive though still because of this, right? Which is interesting. I mean, I don't know how it's gonna be when Pin ends up for Elam, but it's gonna be very interesting to see in one of these latest episodes. 448,000 votes. Then we end up having tennis ball wins. I'm shocked, by the way. Really? Tennis ball won the prize. Wow. What? I was shook by that. I mean, like, Coiny felt like the immediate one. Like, Coiny was like obvious. That felt clear to me. I'm shook by that decision. I mean, Coiny was there with 74,000, but wow, that is crazy. Especially considering tennis ball, I think ends up being in the bottom two as well for elimination, which is like, what is happening? um but yeah, tennis ball ends up managing to win the prize. Yet again, you have to remember something. I am dropping so many things in this segment. I guess this episode just makes you drop shit. I don't know. That a thing that happens when in this episode you just drop shit. But yeah, in what the hell was I saying? I got completely distracted. Wait, what? Oh yeah, tennis ball. You do gotta remember one thing about tennis ball. Tennis ball is in BFDI in Teapot, of course. If I'm not mistaken, out of these castmates, if enough, I think Coiny isn't, Nito isn't, and wait, is Nito in Teapot? Nito is in Teapot, but Nito got eliminated within Teapot, right? I'm trying to remember the exact time. I don't know who's still in, and Fries isn't. So I think that depending on what the hell's going on in Teapot at the time, that might bias these votes a little bit. But either way, tennis ball did get like a beat around quite a lot in the last episode. I wasn't expecting it to be fair enough for it to have worked, especially considering, I mean, they technically did a mean thing, but they say I'm sorry. They say I'm sorry, as they do. So okay, sure, I see it. But yeah, I'm very surprised that it wasn't Coiny. Then they get a universal translator that yet again ends up being, I mean, relatively useful for the challenge. Pin ends up being so roasted. Coiny is the first one safe by like quite a mile. And then Fries ends up getting eliminated by a wait, how considerable? Let me check. 30,000 to 23,000. Yeah, Fries ends up being eliminated by a considerable chunk. Look, trolling is okay, but like when you really don't care, at some point you're gonna get out. You know, like you can't win the show acting entirely. I don't care. And usually can't make it far at all. For some reason, with Fries and just the way that humor, that the BFDA humor lends itself to Fries, it ends up working way better than usual. But you're still not gonna win, right? So now that we eliminate them, we end up at our final five, which ends up being very interesting. So, which is Coiny, Pin, hold on, yeah, Coiny, Pin, Book, Needle, and Tennis Ball. So that is the fellas. Those are the fellas. Now we end up having a very interesting final five, I must say. Is this a correct final five? Do I think that this is correct? Out of the BFDA fellas, sure, to be honest, because a bunch of them feel off. Tennis ball is like pretty cool. I like what's going on with tennis ball right now. In this, I think a lot of people criticize Teapot tennis ball, especially, and it is one of the few characters that feels like they're relevant in both right now, which is a little bit interesting. Because Book usually isn't. Like, Book is a character that has a relative importance in a Teapot as well. But like, in general, I think Pin, dude, a lot of characters are in Teapot, but these aren't the primary Teapot scenes, you know. Like I feel that in Teapot there's more going on right now than just these fellas, right? And I think like out of them, it ends up being. Let me just absolutely check because I can't currently exactly remember who's eliminated. I can't currently perfectly remember. Hold on. Who's still around? Yeah, tennis ball is around. Book is around, and Pin got eliminated a little bit ago. Okay, yeah, okay. So yeah, like those are the characters. Tenable the only one that feels relevant in both. Book exists, but I guess like mainly dealing with the pencil stuff. So yeah, and then there's Coiny, Needle, and Pin. Pin is of course a very much so BFDIA. just such a unique design to it. Now, I feel like at this point people might just like Pin. Pin might just make it all the way. I'm not gonna lie. But then like who is not making it? I don't know, because then there's Coiny and there's Needle. Coiny and Pin are the interesting thing because they kind of make the only proper duo, because Needle has completely separated from everybody. Tennis ball doesn't really have anybody going on for it. Book is the only free smarter because neither yet again separate from everybody. And you see what I mean? Coiny and Pin end up being the only two that actually get along with each other necessarily. But Pin is on mean mode, which means that Pin, even though Coiny gets along with Pin, Pin is gonna be mean back. So it ends up as a lone wolf relation here on both ends. Then the fish monster ends up getting universal translated into the being the host of BFDIA. The challenge ends up being collect 10 different things. If somebody else collected a thing, then you cannot collect it. They must be literally anything that is different. So that's interesting. And then we go. Now, quite a lot of the time, I must say that yeah, I don't think these people do the challenge that correctly, because like yeah, you can do a lot of obvious stuff, and in fact they do try quite a lot. They do get quite a lot of obvious stuff, like Coney getting spit or whatever. But it's just some of these things is like, oh, wait, but surely you could have just done some extra thing, because like for example, when when Pin brings over tree and they drop down a bunch of stuff from the tree, you could have just also gone the other segments of the tree, Or like for example, if you get a flower, you can scan in a flower, but you can also scan in a petal, a spark, a root, right? Like a lot of other stuff that they can get. A lot of people don't really try. But eventually we have a waterfall, and then what do we have? We have Leafy. We have Leafy. So Leafy in this episode has decided to attack, and by attack I mean be Leafy. Just be Leafy. Leafy in the most classic Leafy way of being. He's like, oh my god, guys, I'm so nice. Look at me. I'm helping you out. I'm giving you the strategy. Murder everybody else. It's like, wait, what? What? Don't murder everybody else. What are you on? But they end up trying to assist everybody neutrally to give them, their own definition. It is very weird to see a Leafy in this place, because we do got to remember that Leafy's apparently like, you're not really supposed to do anything. And it's like when Book was like, well, I don't really know you, and it's like, oh yeah, I forgot. Book is a BFDIA debutante. Out of the ones, I think that's the only BFDIA debutante in this situation. Right? Yeah, because Pin isn't. Which means that like it's the only character. It's like, oh yeah, like that's such a weird mind screw. Because like we're considering like Book has been around for so long that I just feel like a character. But yeah. Then we end up having a couple of things. I don't know why this pumpkin ends up being a death trap, but oh okay. Tennis winds up agreeing to Leafy's plan of murdering everybody, which is I'm shook by that. I mean, it's a half valid. I mean, it's a valid strategy, I guess. Again, there's easier things to do, though. Like there's way easier things to do than that. Just like go to Yo-Yo Land and grab 10 random things from the city. Like you can do whatever you want. This challenge is so easy that it gets overcomplicated to an incredible extent, right? Like for example, they make the ice cream for Book, right? Sure, you make the ice cream. Grab the ingredients and put them in the basket. Oh, it'll count as one item. This ice cream. Well, what about the flour and the thing? Well, not the eggs, because the eggs were already claimed. But it's just what. Grab the sundae. It's like gigantic pieces of chocolate, vanilla, and everything. They were gonna count as different things because yeah, it's a chocolate sundae when it's all together. But if you grab a piece and duck it into the basket, it's gonna count as a different vanilla ice cream flavoring. Like it's just like we're not thinking cheesy enough. We're not cheesing this challenge enough. Which is like, look, I understand, but it's a bit weird, but when you write a challenge that's so unbelievably cheesable and just immediately going, bro, what? And also, how does other people count, but at the same time you can't submit yourself? Like, nobody ever tried to submit themselves, right? So yeah, Tennis Ball tries to murder everybody, but they eventually succeed. So good job at doing that. Nito and Leafy try to be friends. Nito takes the evil spaceship, not the evil spaceship, the spaceship thing to do it. Like, yeah, like for example, you see, bro, this guy, Tennis Ball just has this gigantic hammer for using for murdering people. No, but won't be submitting that. Won't be submitting that. That not count. It's like, what? Because every single item, you gotta remember, counts because the challenge is extremely broad. But instead, we're having so many items be like blind spots, you know? It's like, bro. And yet again, I don't know, you don't grab a yo-yo berry on the way, it would count or whatever, but okay. Then we end up having, yeah, like for example, like I got, like Coiny, for example, yeah, just submit yourself, genuinely. Like if Coiny just dropped into the basket, you win because 10 out of 10. You don't need to do anything because you're Coiny. And you know, well, also you could say, oh, you didn't think of that, that required a little bit of thought. But they did this joke before. They did this joke before, like BFDI 11 or whatever. Right? No, or 10. Or like BFDI 10, you know? Like they did it. They paid with Coiny. Coiny counts as a thing. Right? They paid with Coiny, and Coiny used them himself to pay. Right? So it's like, they could have done that again, and then Coiny would have won. I'm telling you, Coiny would have won. And then eventually Tennis Ball tries to be mean, and at the last second, everybody is gonna drop down because of course, Tennis Ball forgets to actually revive Fiery. So yeah, Nito manages to at the last second switch over the pin basket into the needle basket, but then all of the people come flurrying in, and that means 10 out of 10 because yet again Tennis Ball forgot to revive Fire. Tennis Ball, what are you doing? Tennis Ball, you're throwing Coiny, you're throwing Pin, you're throwing just the freaking put yourself in one of the wheels in as a separate item and account. Like it's put the battery pack and the thing. Like it's so easy. It's so easy to get items, bro. As long as you just use yourself. Like book, use a page. Use your page. You can trap one out. You have 1 billion. Like it's just whatever. But eventually, Needle somehow wins instead. And that means that we're heading into phase 2 of the challenge. However, I think yes, Needle is safe from elimination. And now it's time for phase 2 of the challenge. I have no idea what the hell phase 2 of the challenge even means. Like, it's just, phase 2. It could possibly... Now, I'm just curious if Nito will have something to do with it. Like, does Nito just sit BFDI 20 out? Because, she's safe? Or will she actively have immense power, as quote-unquote described? Because they say, oh, you will have immense power in the game. Is that okay? Does that mean like you'll have immense power in literally what's about to happen, or you're just immense power because you're safe to the final 4? Right? Is that what's happening? But yeah, in the second half of the challenge, I mean, it depends on whether it's going to be a different challenge or not, because like, I don't, because yeah, I don't really know, because if it's the same challenge, then I mean, yet again, Coiny is gonna again just submit yourself, bro. It's not that hard. Nobody said it wasn't allowed. Literally 0 people said that. Okay. So, yeah. This episode was okay. I'm always a little bit mad out when we don't use the A and B system. Because it's like, I understand it gives you flashbacks of, oh my god, it's BFDIA 5 again with A, B, C, and D, and E. Right? And it's like, oh my god. But like, that's what this is. This is BFDIA 19A. I'm sorry. Like, we didn't do a challenge. We had a cutoff right in the middle of it. That means that this is 19 and this is 19A and BFDIA 20 is 19B because nobody gets eliminated, but it's not a spin-off episode where we're taking a look at a different part. We're just cutting off the thing in half, which means that one is A and one is B. Like it's just like that's the way that it is. It's just that's how it is. I'm just saying, A's and B's. Gotta use the A's and B's. Gotta know your letters of the alphabets. And then we're not even using letters of the alphabets anymore. The title's a flipping emoji. The title is an egg emoji. These titles, by the way, have been very weird. These titles have been kind of random. To be fair, I feel like they've always been kind of random. They've never really had They've never really had a style of title. Titles have just been kind of random for a while. For BFDIA, they've always been random. And for T-pop, they've always been quite random. Some of them were even long sentences at the start of T-pop, but then we've kind of relaxed ourselves out. But like even in this situation for like BFDIA, like if I'm not mistaken, like who's the most popular episode of BFDIA? Like in BFDIA one called like yeah, who I want to know. Yeah, which is literally just a quote that Puffball says like 3 times, right? And it's but the titles aren't usually based on anything serious, and in this case they're not. In the other episode they're not. Uh, I mean, in the other episode actually, Rival quite like the airplanes in the night sky joke. Even though there's only one person that has an airplane in the night sky, that's a paper plane in the night sky. All right, it is time to head over to BFDIA 20, which is I guess 19B launch party. Let's go. Hello, I have just come back from watching BFDIA 20. So, that is a very interesting little romp of an episode. BFDIA 19B, as I like to call it, because they refuse to do titles with A's and B's anymore. I disagree. What is an N? What is a B? They're A's and B's, alright? um, we get a little bit of a flashback to to the reason why Ice Cube wanted to leave. It's because I don't know, they just wanted to escape from Leafy. Because yet again, for some reason, Ice Cube has not calculated the factoid that Leafy can leave Doyleland. Like you're not physically destined to be in Doyleland forever. Like there's not like a barricade. There's not like a Undertale barrier going on. Like you can leave. That is a thing that you're capable of doing. And indeed, they almost do that. But anyhow, we have our challenge. So the challenge ends up being basically okay. It's quite a complex challenge system. So, Needle safe. All right. The next 4 have their baskets. So, tennis ball and coiny, I think, are form the safe zone, and then pin and book are in the danger zone. Okay, and if you're in the danger zone by the end of the 1 hour, you are safe. No, if you're in the danger zone by the end of the 1 hour, you are up for Elam. Sorry. And then the idea is that you have to collect 10 items and sell your 10 items after collecting 10 items to then be able to get a ticket from the basket that you can then give out to our fella out here, all right? To the fish monster host. I don't know who was up. I have no idea who was up for voting in the last episode for the host because it didn't actually say so in the video. It was just a part of the poll, and the poll's obviously taken down, so you can't know preemptively who was up for new host polling, which I do think is rather unfortunate. I mean, I would have enjoyed if there was that information was present. To be honest, like I thought that, like I think that would have been overall a better thing, But oh well, whatever. I don't know how many options there were. Maybe there were like dozens. But yeah. Then Needle gets to pick who goes back into the danger zone every time somebody's safe. So you have to swap, but you can of course swap out somebody better. So I must admit that this is interesting because technically, if Needle really wanted to, they could bring one person safe forever, pretty much, right? Like if somebody is safe, if any one individual person Needle wanted to make safe, they could, just but at all costs, right? However, eventually they decide to not do that because at the end of the day it's Needle, and Needle doesn't have any major allegiances, has a couple very mild allegiances, but Needle doesn't have any like big allegiance, so ends up being pretty all right here. Then we end up having yet again the challenge here, selling and distributing. Tennis ball ends up being upset because, of course, they did disfigure Needle. It's just kind of the tennis ball desperately trying to be safe at all costs is kind of crazy. And nobody wants to buy pretty much anything on Earth. I like how we have the normal face, yellow face variant as one of the recommended characters. Shout out to those, I guess. Um, but in general, they are trying to do that. Book, of course, still only has one item. There's everybody else in the WTF, which is having them, and then they have to sell them to somebody. A tennis ball eventually gets put into Coiny's basket. However, that means the tennis ball can now move around as Coiny's basket as well, because of course you can't leave the Coiny basket. And then Book gets a kind of smart idea. So the idea is that the pin basket is literally in Book's basket, which means that since the baskets can be sold, Pin selling her basket would directly result in selling Book's basket because they can't be separated. So you have to sell them both at the same time, which means they both have to be potentially safe at the same time. So that is honestly relatively smart decision because the item like the way that the items work is kind of wonk. You know, it's kind of janky the way that the items function out here because it's like, oh, you see Pin's basket, one item. Like it takes the summary of an item, which makes sense, but at the same time, like some things probably would count different. Like for example, remember that ice cream sundae from the time? Is that hold on? Does that count? Like that's one thing, yes, but at the same time, it's multiple things because there's the glass, there's the ice cream, there's the ingredients of the ice cream. Like it depends on how many subcategories you want to make of every individual thing, and it just takes the broadest subcategory possible. So even if Pin's basket is a million things, Pin's basket itself is an item, right? So I guess that counts, but yeah. I would say that this is one of those challenges where, like, oh, the basket is playing convenient or whatever. I would usually say that. In this case, I think that it's like okay, because like it's not really that bad. It's like in general, it's pretty consistently half broken, right? Which is fine. When eventually the alliance ends up getting them to try to sell the baskets. What is the idea? Yeah, Courtney's chasing Tennis Ball, who has both baskets, both Tennis Ball's basket and the other basket. And then the WTFers end up protesting. And then the hit character Leafy from the hit series Battle for Dream Island ends up yet again coming in to help with her classic plan. Yo, if your opponents are dead, they will not be able to finish the challenge. Which true, but also no. Also no, because Needle's there and Needle will be capable of recovering everybody. So no, that's actually incorrect. Um, but okay, because like Needle's just gonna revive whoever dead. You know, like technically, okay, you would have to get Needle. You would okay. The thing about it that's weird is that you would need to be safe. Then you would need to murder Needle, not to recover Needle, not allow anybody else to recover Needle, and then murder everybody who's in the danger zone, and then you're chilling. You have to you have to be safe, then get Needle, and then get the danger zone. It's a way overcomplicated plan that you just can't realistically do, bro. You just can't realistically do that, bro. And then yeah, in this challenge we also have only 2 people being up for Elim, which we did a couple of episodes ago. In one of the big ones, quote unquote, one of the big episodes, which was pointy 14 if I'm not mistaken. So we did it in that episode, which was one of the big ones, quote unquote. This is also a big one in terms of it's 22 minutes, but it's 22 minutes twice because again 19A and 19B. This is 19B. Okay, I refuse to accept anything else. The number 20 here is a lie. Okay, this is the same episode as the last one. It's just in 2 parts. But then yeah, they bring the wrong Dream Island, because remember, that's what you're battling for in BFDIA. Remember, you're not battling for Dream Island, because Dream Island isn't a thing. You're battling for the Dream Island ripoff. That's just like the farm cattle. I'll be honest, until I saw it, I was like, oh yeah, that's the prize, isn't it? Because like we didn't know it yet. I don't know why everybody's battling for this prize. I'm gonna be absolutely for real. I mean, even the Maeve themselves are like, yo, this really ain't, there really isn't it. Like this really isn't the best prize out here in the lands. I've certainly seen better. But like, yeah, I mean, there's really not too much else to it. Again, it's one of, in my opinion, one of the mild hindrances of these early BFDI seasons, of BFDIA and BFB, that I don't really like how the prizes is nothing, right? Like here, like I don't know, they've always made it for BFDIA and BFB. They made the prize a joke, which is kind of weird, like not weird. Like they are battling for a BFDI, whatever that means, right? And it's like, we don't know what that means for the entire season. And then later, you write it into meaning something. But at the end of the day, just at the first episode, yo, what the prize means? Ha, this would be funny. And then you don't realize that it has massive ramifications. Right? At least in Teapot, the prize of the power of two, that is like generally an interesting thing. Like that's actually something that you would want to have as a person. And even in BFDI, the prize is Dream Island, which is something that you would actually want. You want to freaking your own private island. What the hell, right? So more than willing to do that. But anyways, I have talked about it. Leafy, I don't, bro. To this day, I don't really know what's going on with Leafy. So Leafy randomly, like the like super early BFDA, right? Leafy was like, "Yo, I'm about to like become extremely proficient with knives for no reason." Was that? I'm a loyal land alone for 1 million years. I'm just gonna throw knives and shit and like become decent at that. Not necessarily become good at that, but just kind of throw knives. And then they eventually recommend other people to throw knives, which made Levy the nicest mean character in the history of the universe. But eventually they do agree to shoot up everybody else. They're trying to get a bunch of stuff. Evil Leafy ends up, yeah, we end up selling the WTFers to Evil Leafy, which yeah, Evil Leafy takes those. But yeah, no, they don't end up taking the rocks as well. Then, oh yeah, the pin buys out from the others. So tennis ball enters the danger zone, and then the book doesn't actually get to redeem it because Corny was busy. But then Nito accepted the thing, and then but like Nito was like, "I'm not gonna put you if you stop throwing," and then Corny stops throwing it, and then immediately Nito puts Corny in the danger zone. So yeah, that's kind of GG. Look, Nito's playing for herself now, right? Nito is playing hella solo, like ultra solo. In this, and to be fair, in this case, you have all the power. You do truly have immense power. Because as I've said, if Nita wanted to, one person can just be saved the entire time, regardless of whatever happens. So like, yeah. Then eventually we discovered that apparently the other planet, the weird planet in the really weird planet, not the weird planet, the really weird planet in the Orion Nebula, okay, ends up accepting the offer of Tennis Ball from some from some like earthly stuff, and they accept it. This is the really weird planet that shows up in Teapot a bunch of times. Glad to have some consistency on that aspect. Then Tennis Ball decides to go build a rocket, that can go to space and stuff because they're hilariously smart. Um, then eventually, who ends up being? Oh yeah, Coiny and the other stuff. So Coiny ends up taking the spaceship that's Leafy's, right? The one from Original BFDI. And then Tennis Ball ends up building a super complex little rocket. Then they end up having a crash course. They have a little bit of a. They end up both making it to the planet. They both have a couple of different ideas. Pin and Book just cannot agree for anything, to be honest. But like, oh well, the map ends up getting destroyed. At least Leafy explained how to use it. At least Leafy explained how to use it. Because again, it's really interesting. Book doesn't know Leafy. That's so weird. That's such a weird detail. Because that just feels like illegal. Because everybody knows Leafy. Leafy's just a person who's like mildly annoying. Right? Like that's just Leafy. But wait, yeah, Leafy here is like a menace that everybody has secluded from society, and that's why we're playing BFDIA in the first place. But then all the debutantes didn't ever really get to understand the drama that well. So like they don't actually really know Leafy necessarily what they did, how they did it, and what the hell's going on. Which is like wow. I always forget that. So yeah. Eventually these fellas from the really weird planet in the Orion Nebula end up being extremely buying. They'll take anything over there. I mean, I guess that makes sense. If some alien arrived to be okay, if some alien arrived to Earth and was like, "Yo, I got shit to sell. Do you want it?" I mean, even if they've got like dirt or something, that's like you're still buying it. Somebody's still gonna buy it because it's like, yo, it's like another planet, bro. This is like the aliens. Like I don't know, this looks like dirt, but if it's like space dirt, like they gotta investigate every single item. So that's why, yeah, sure, they'll absolutely take these weird rocks instead. Because like, why the hell not? So I understand why these fellas are so omega evil. Corny ends up getting the immunity ticket, and then Tennis Ball also ends up getting the immunity ticket, but they end up trying to do that until Pin eventually comes by. So then Tennis Ball speed runs it over. They get the immunity ticket, and then Tennis Ball does a tactic. One of the tactics of all time. So Needle has to get recovered for Tennis Ball to be safe. Okay? Because Needle has to say something. However, the issue is that Needle is going to put Tennis Ball back in the elimination zone because Corny is going to eventually redeem his ticket. Okay, cool, sure. However, now we have the little issue that, like, yeah, you need to have a pin, announce who's safe, but not be capable of inputting them into the elimination zone or whatever, which, yeah, definitely makes it a little bit complicated. But Tennis Ball really tried to be mean here, but it didn't work. Needle's unfortunately too strong for this bullshit. So yeah. Eventually Ruby. Oh yeah, they end up getting flown back by the HPRC all the way back. I mean, I guess it's pretty good glue. The glue's pretty good. The glue thinner ran out. Book eventually gets destroyed yet again by the pin drill. But oh well. Then Needle accepts to give up immunity ticket to Book, which Book then takes, and then Tennis Ball promises, pinky promise, they'll do whatever Needle wants in the next round, literally anything, as long as Needle doesn't put them in the elimination zone right here, right now. And Needle, you know what Needle takes the deal? Needle takes the deal, puts pin up for the danger zone. The deal was taken. Would I have taken that deal? That's an interesting question. If I would have taken that, I don't know. Do I take that deal? I feel like I do, but I also don't. I guess it's like Pin is this kind of menace that nobody really likes. So it's not necessarily a bad thing to have Pin be up for him, but having Tennis Ball do whatever you want, cause like I mean look, Nito's a master of the art of just lying shit. Like, you know, look, Tennis Ball's too nice to really lie like that much. I feel like they are probably actually gonna try to do whatever Needle said in the next episode. Maybe up to a certain point. Maybe Needle's gonna be like, "You need to get eliminated for me, okay? Okay, Well, I was Needle, so be get eliminated for me." Something along those lines. But other than that, I don't really know. But okay then. They end up running in. Corny and Pin are trying to both redeem their tickets in time. However, the alien decides one little thing. By the way, hold on. Just quick segment. I love the designs of the aliens. They're so how do I say it? Scrunkly. They're very they're like roughly drawn. They really do in the way that they like have a constantly sort of alternating like asset to them. They have like an asset that's 2 frames. It really does give them this extra roughness feel to them that actually makes them stand out quite a lot in the BFDI art style, which is very assetized. So I think that's pretty cool stuff. Eventually, Corny agrees with the alien or whatever and decides to route them both off and get them both up for elimination because they had tickets. So they were like, "Yo, if Pin's up for elimination, they will most likely get eliminated." Because nobody likes Pin over there, really. Corny likes Pin, but when realistically, guess that most other people don't, right? At least in the universe. Now it's the viewers that has to decide: can Pin be safe, or is Corny gonna get out? That's the two. That's the two options. There you have it. They're on the table. Coiny or Pin. Um, this is a very interesting 50-50. I must say. This is more interesting than the last one. Even though the last one I got hella wrong with the Book and Ruby. This one I also got hella wrong. I'm probably gonna get hella wrong. Coiny or Pin? I mean, the thing about it is that yet again, you have historically just kind of throughout the episode and throughout like in general, kind of meaner character like Pin, who has just been absolutely a menace this entire time, just kind of super mean, right? And then you have Coiny, who was mean right now because of course they threw the challenge, and viewers don't tend to like characters that throw the challenge, right? That literally throw the challenge, that lose on purpose, right? For a tactic. That usually is not what happens, right? They don't like that. Remember when Puffball did it? Was like, oh yeah, I win a prize. We got for elimination, so I'm gonna be up for elimination, and then Puffball gets out, right? That was all the way back in BFDI 5, of course, but like that's still a thing. Where like in general, Coiny doing that puts them up probably quite nearby to Pin in the chopping block. But Pin is a menace, man. Pin has been bad. Even in this episode, Pin is just in general dislikable in terms of mean characterness, right? In the way that she's been disrespecting Book. She's still not really ever respected Coiny. And it's just kind of like there's a global kind of set of disrespect going on. So I think Pin's out. I'm gonna say Pin's out. And Pin has been in the bottom two, even with the mech suit, even though like it's cool, has been in the bottom two with the mech suit before. So I'm gonna say Pin probably gets out here. And then we have our final four of Coiny, Nizo, Book, and wait, Tennis Ball. Heading into BFDA 21, which yeah, I mean, the thing that's the thing. So, all right, now yeah, I do think the Pin's out. But yeah, it just makes more sense, because like in general, it's a slow burn, and as I've said in the previous episode, Pin gets away with this quite a lot because you're in the late game, and a meaner character in the late game works out because it feels like more, oh, you're doing it to win it. You're going to win it. You gotta be ruthless to win it. But like, there's a certain point where it's like, okay, you gotta be ruthless to win it, but Pin is directly being mean for no reason, right? Because like Pin is just kind of being rude for the sake of being rude at the same time, not necessarily competition. And like Pin literally was like, "Yo, I would rather lose than help out Book for a little bit," until Book eventually convinces Pin. I was like, oh, wait. So Pin was actually down to lose just to be rude, And then it's like, oh, come on. Then it starts being okay. What's this shit all about? I'm saying Pin gets out. But Coiny getting out would make 100% sense. I think the votes are going to be close, probably like 55-45. But I'm going to say it's in the Pin direction in this case. All right, and that's my reasoning. All right. Okay, episode 21 of BFDIA is 22 minutes. I think for the third time in a row. Now we have an episode be 22 minutes long. Yeah, because episode 19 is 22:52, then it's 22:21, and then episode 21 is 22:45. So the 22-minute episode, that's just that. How do you do that? How do you write 3 episodes the exact same? I'm curious if the scripts are the same size. I wonder if like that script is the exact same page count as well, or if they're like different sizes. I'm very curious about that. Actually, now that I think about it, I really want to know. But I guess we won't be capable of knowing. Anyhow, let's watch it. BFDIA 21. We're not friends. I see Leafy. Let's go. Yo, I have just come back from watching BFDIA 21. We're not friends. I watched it a little while ago. Um, we have a little bit of another episode where we're not actually doing an elimination. So you see, that is how we're getting BFDIA to more proper lengths. Because I was wondering how we were going to be doing it with like a final 11 that should have theoretically led to what? 22? But no, we end up having these bonus episodes, like for example an episode like this where nobody actually gets eliminated, and then a couple of episodes ago, like in 18, also nobody got eliminated, right? So when they're having that little situation, because if I'm not mistaken, right, how many episodes did BFDI have? Didn't it have 25? I think it had 25, right? um yeah, BFDA 25 was the last one. Yet again, I mean, there's a couple of weird exceptions. Like, for example, Magi 19 and 20 were definitely the same episode. They're absolutely disguised, but okay, okay. Um, but here we get Pin. Pin is also known as an outsider. So Leafy's trying to hang out with Pin. So they're trying to be reasonable as like, trying to be nice but mean, and trying to be mean but nice. Pin. Um, so then they're trying to debate themselves, and eventually we end up having a couple of things. Tennis Ball signs an agreement to do whatever Nito wants for the next challenge, including a no loopholes policy in the contract. Which, yeah, fair enough. I mean, no loopholes, chat. There's literally no loopholes written in the contract. So I mean, you can argue that no, it's not a loophole. It's just a subjugation of the rules. But yeah, I mean, in this case, I must admit that Tennis Ball is kind of cooked. Although we won't necessarily see the fruits of the effort the efforts that Tennis Ball is giving to Needle quite yet, because of course this episode isn't exactly of a challenge variety. It's actually, one of those in between episodes. Then when they're having a couple of things, Nito ends up for some reason Spongy doesn't get recovered. I love the freaking hospital guy. One of the funniest ones. Say, bro, just recover. You have a recovery center. Like we're not. Why are we having hospitals out here? Like, bro, and especially because it's like, what hospital is it? Like the one in Yoyo City, the one the city that's abandoned for 700 months. Like, what makes sense? Everybody's dying over there, you know. But yeah, our intro is back to normality because we're here. Then oh yeah, the LOL is here indeed. Because we are in fact having a host debate, because yeah, Balloony ended up being the host. Then everybody else ends up tying up Balloony for, of course, tying everybody else up. So then we have our votes for this episode, which is who will be hosting. I don't know who is going to be hosting. We have you. So apparently, how the box worked was that it was roughly just, I guess, an open prompt. There's a who should host, and then you write one name, and then it counts it, which is interesting because, of course, so many characters have so many different ways to say their names. Huh? Like, you could write the script, like the freaking shortening, you can write a longening, or you can write a lot of different ways for a lot of names. Like, for example, I saw that in the top 200 there was the HPRC. Dude, you literally have to write HPRC. Or, like, for example, for the 4 voters, did everybody vote for, like, write the name for, like, FOUR? Or did a bunch of them type the number 4, like, literally the 1 into the fit? So, like, you see, that's kind of the debate. So I don't know how exactly they calculated all these votes, because I mean, there's a lot of them. There was a lot of them, so they must have been hard at work if they were gonna to solve these edge case scenarios. But what they probably did was settle it down for like, they probably tallied all the votes in literal spellings, and then they saw which ones were outliers. So, like, if you saw 4 and then 4, you combine those two numbers of votes. I was like, okay, they mean the same thing, right? So that makes sense. Or, like, they search every with leaf or leafster or whatever, right? So, anyways, yeah, we discovered that the way to not be metal is you have to eat a yellow tomato, which Pin ends up eating them all in front of Leafy. Why? Because be why? I don't know. You see, this is what I mean. Pin is kind of mean for no reason. Like, there's certain situations where Pin is like, "Oh yeah, you're being mean for the strategy of the game," but then no, come wait, that's not that's not it though. You're just being mean for the sake of being mean. Like there isn't really an additional reason for it. And then we get to see what a thing that we get to see. We get to see 5B. When I saw that, I'm like, oh yeah, in your Inside Evil Leafy, it's such an interesting landscape to animate because it's a 2D landscape. So you just have to make it like kind of a thin platform, but then you look at it from the BFDA 5B angle. That I'm not even gonna lie, that was kind of sick. I'm not even gonna lie. This, of course, this show does a lot of cameos to itself, makes a lot of mentions to itself. That like general just references itself a lot, right? It does that a shit ton. However, gotta admit that was cool. That was cool. Actually, seeing 5B as an animation piece, that is cool. Especially because it's been so long. Everybody else drops down. God Boy yet again is just praying like, bro, everybody around me are morons. And to be fair, the people in the WTF are what even are they, bro? You have the cake and steak. The cake and steak theme has stayed. Let's go. I mean, so far it's only played like twice because half the episodes ever since its introduction have not had a cake and steak within it. However, we do get to see it for like the second or third time, which is pretty cool. I don't know what the Eiffel Tower's doing there. I guess it was one of the monuments of the of one of like two of the episodes, right? Like paint the Eiffel Tower, whatever. Um, then we end up having 112,000 votes. 600 unique characters got voted for, apparently. Which how many exist? That's actually good. What's the maximum amount of people that exist, quote unquote? Because it's like, wait, you know, because like for example, I saw that Carrie and Michael were considered valid character submissions in the top 200. But that, hold on, I mean they exist, like who they're referring to, but at the same time is that okay, who they're referring to, but also that's not a character in BFDI, or is it? Because oh well, you see, actually in BFDI 20 there is a character called Carrie KH recommended, and that oh okay, cool. Then we have a couple of people that voted for non-existing, which also does not exist. They love making this joke. I'm telling you, this is one of their favorite jokes. This has got to be one of their favorite jokes for here at the writing department. Every time they can make a joke about voting non-existing and those votes not counting because non-existing doesn't exist and therefore the votes doesn't exist. They love doing that. They're big fans of that. They will be doing that all day long. I ain't gonna lie. And then of course they give a digging at 4, which apparently got 1,168 votes. But apparently 4 cannot host because it's just a number. I mean, I'll be shook. I'm gonna be surprised as hell if that is not a recommended character. Though. I'm just saying. If 4 was never actually recommended as a character, just like the number 4, I'm going to be majorly sure because we're counting a bunch of other things which are letters and symbols, kind of like the O, gets references, not getting enough votes. The O from the Go symbol, right? So like, this key can count, but okay. Then apparently 1,200 votes also voted for multiple people, which is bad. Ruby sisters don't count. Um, but yeah, for some reason they spin the prize wheel. They end up getting 1 billion hits to them. I love the individual frame of Pin getting hit by an anvil. Like that face, bro. That's like a reaction image. Love it. The reaction Pin image of Pin going like that. Yeah, that's great. What are even the things of this? Brick seeds, toilet rock, anvil, zappies. There's yet again $1 billion. Yellow tomato is always just a thing on the list, which is nice. Yet again to this day, when will they ever land on the money? Well, somebody's got to land on the money someday. Like, please, like I get it, but You gotta land on the money, one. You gotta be like, oh my god, it's finally happened. You know, like I understand that the joke is that it never happens, but if it did, that'd be hype. Imagine someone just wins $2 billion. Like, that'd be like, come on, land on it one day, please. TNT, bro. And then they get treated with TLC. The review of the votes from lowest to highest. Spike Ball gets 1 vote. So good job, Zay Randez, for getting the recommendation of Spike Ball. I wonder if they recommended Spike Ball. I wonder if Zay Randez is the recommender of Spike Ball. That'd be an interesting question. Was the recommender like voted for their own character and that's like the only vote, or is it that or did they just vote on a random other character who exists, who technically counts, right? But yeah, it's quite a lengthy cake and steak procedure because I mean like yeah, it's just it just takes a while. Then we end up having another to walk in a straight line. Everybody is fine. Why? Hold on. Why is there the letter E hanging by that tree? Is that because evil? I don't know. I haven't played 5B. Okay. I mean, I played 5B. I played it 1 billion years ago. That like I played 5B like 7 years ago. So I don't exactly remember um what goes on in that game. It's like a puzzle platformer game. I think it was unfinished, right? I think 5B never finished. I think it like released like 5 levels or something, and then that never ended. Is that what happened to 5B? I think that's what happened to 5B. It was also a Flash game. It's not technically playable anymore. I think it was eventually ported to HTML. So I think it's okay. I think it's currently playable with an HTML version that they made. But yeah. Then Cyan Ice Cube with eye patch rotated 17 degrees counterclockwise got 6 votes. Who's the friend group? Who's the friend group? Who's the friend group that got the voted 6? What is it? What are you doing? How did you do that? How did you get a mention on Jack and Jello Feet, which is Cyan Ice Cube with eye patch rotated 17 degrees counterclockwise? That's a legendary moment. But yeah. By the way, apparently also like Black Hole could just talk this whole time. Okay. Uh, so like not to say that Black Hole can't talk usually, but the Black Hole having the tape running around, I guess they just didn't feel like talking because they could have talked the whole time. Because they're the first ones to talk up to Balloon, and Balloon didn't need to take the tape off any of them. So I guess that's just how it was. Okay then. And then we keep having the debate about the lemons. Yeah, they just keep trying. They keep trying to grow yellow tomatoes in the seeds. If I'm not mistaken, wasn't yellow tomatoes like only? Wait, hun, where do yellow tomatoes grow? Because I swear they were in Yoyo Land, right? That was like a thing in Yoyo Land, and I know like Yoyo berry can only grow in Yoyo Land because of course it's a Yoyo berry, right? The Yoyo berry grows in Yoyo Land. I know that this might be one of the crazy. This might be one of the shocks. Okay, it might be shocking revelations, but it is indeed true. That is in fact a thing. So yeah, then we have oh yeah, Book ends up being like, "Yo, help me out." No, the tennis ones are being like, "Yo, help me out, Book." But then nah, not really. Book is just like, "Yo, just like play nice. The voters won't vote you if you're just like are nice, you know." So yeah, I mean that is true. That is true. That is true to me. Because they do end up doing like voter behavior. Would voters actually vote tennis ball? Because tennis ball has been very worried about getting voted out in the past few episodes. I mean, you can tell they've been up for eliminations, a disastrous occurrence, right? Because they got to the bottom two against Fries, even though Fries got eliminated very handily that episode. Would the voters vote them out? I feel like in the certain episode, yes. Like in the last episode, yes, probably. In this episode, probably not. If they actually just listen to Nito. But to be fair, yet again, Nito has not yet had to say anything. We'll have to see during the challenge. McCoyney is super mad at themselves because no, I lost the challenge for Pin. I feel so bad. Which is like, yeah, that makes sense. Although, yeah, Corny kind of doesn't care about anybody else, so yeah, I don't know why they're telling everybody else, but like you can pretty clearly tell that yet again, Pin and Corny, yes, they're acting kind of like the lone wolves in a way. Like, there's a very interesting like wait a minute, is that tier list? That tier list? Wait, is that like the character from Animatic? Wait, I just saw him in the recommended character pile. Okay, and anyway, what was I just saw them when I was scrolling through the episode. Sorry, but there is an interesting parallel that gets brought up in this episode quite a lot of Fiery and Coiny having an interesting parallel with Leafy and Pin as sort of this character that's kind of mean, but but that's kind of mean, but we saw the niceness in them and then we're fond of it, right? By this kind of well performing half loser character that exists, right? So like that is the situation that we're in, and they do bring up this parallel quite a bit. Where like it's not necessarily that opposites attract; it's just that opposites can go at the same speed, you know. Where it's kind of like, despite Coiny and Fiery hating each other, despising their guts, right? At least in the era, it ends up being that like they get along to similar paths. You know, they fly similar wings in terms of how they end up approaching the game later. And I think that's a very interesting little tidbit in comparison, absolutely. So yeah. Anyhow, what were we on about? We end up having, by the way, I love the factoid that yet again, one of the things that is I find about it is that like actually have the entire top 126 shown off here as like they're listed because it's just there's that itch of curiosity that happens in this show, right? There's like this show just kind of goes like, you're probably curious, aren't you? And it's like, well, I am. So I mean, thank you for satisfying my curiosity. But like you get to see a bunch of things. Look at all these characters, bro. Boombox Sun, Giant David, price tag as if you exist. Where Marker the Green, WT Pet Amoeba, Yoyoberry itself. Okay. Tree, yeah, that makes sense. The LOL, the TLC, Carrot Cake, Meephone. What is Meephone doing here? What? What? How are you here? You telling me you had a chance? If everybody had voted for MePhone, they would have had MePhone host. That is, they're telling me they're doing that. That's a thing that was on the table. What? Okay. Anyway, um, what were we on about? What the hell were we on about? Yeah. Eventually, they eventually get a yellow tomato because they spin the yellow tomato into the freaking thing into the wheel, and Leafy brings it over so that they can say hi to Fiery. Then let's lock in our top 10. Gelatin, Ruby, and Woody. Woody with 2,667 votes is give me a surprising amount. I guess it's one of the like the contestants that made it far that feels the most absent, as in like one of those contestants that really made it quite far in a season but that's completely absent from this or Teapot. It kind of feels like Woody is right now, which so I guess it makes sense why Woody will get as many. Evil Leafy obviously gets as many votes because of the simple concept of Evil Leafy hosting, haha. Right? I don't think Evil Leafy got more votes, probably because we did get a glimpse of what Evil Leafy hosting, haha would be like. Because we saw it in Teapot 15 as one of the jokes. So that's fair. Then we end up having the Cake of Steak. So Fiery and no, Fish Monster, Fiery, and Gobble don't get to host. Yeah, a lot of people were just like, "Yo, let's get one of the previous hosts back," and yeah, they do. But no, they don't end up hosting again. So that's fair. But Announcer doesn't get to host. They have 4,000 total votes. I must say that that would have been interesting for sure because Announcer is dead. But yeah, like what? How do these votes work, bro? Like it's interesting. They just allow everything. Like, there isn't the point that we're doing BFDIA because the announcer's gone? What do you mean announcer? What if announcer? I need to know. I need the alternate time where announcer wins now. What? How does that work? um. Then the final two end up being who ended up 10 Fries because everyone wanted to see Fries forcefully host, right? And then, however, no, by quite a margin, actually, with 26,000, Leafy hosting obviously is the most disruptive to the series, right? Like, because like at the end of the day, okay, sure, it's somebody weird hosting would be funny. However, at the same time, Leafy would be the one that's the most obviously destructive, because everybody's trying to dodge Leafy, right? That's the point. Everybody hates Leafy, and if he's getting shown around in the episodes, trying to eventually befriend people and stuff. But it's like at the end of the day, this would be the biggest disruption. And when you have a unanimous vote like this, I think people overall try to tend to go for the biggest disruption. And indeed, they do. Pin eventually apologizes to Corny, being like, "Hey, did you know we can be friends even if you get eliminated? Okay, yeah, that's true. We can do that." I genuinely I have nothing to say about this. I'm not like that big into into Pin and Corny. I'm not gonna lie. I'm not that big into it. They're fine. It's a dynamic. It's cool. Well, I'm like the only one in the show right now, so yeah, keep it moving. Go on, go off. Even though like Pin's randomly mean to everybody, it's like what the hell you want? um, but okay then. And then eventually we have Leafy, which gets inspired by looking at them fly off into the night sky like an airplane. They revive Fiery, and then Fiery ends up going, goodbye, stranger. Leafy gets very offended by this, and then Fiery proceeds to disappear. What is it? You have got running skills. Where are those? Ain't no way. This guy got the disappearing at better than Penn and Teller. This guy got better disappearing at the Penn and Teller. What the hell? Where did he go? Because in one case, sure, you could say that Leafy was startled, right? But in this case, Leafy went chasing immediately, and Fiery's just not there. Just not on the scene. This guy left in world records amounts of time. What ability does you have? Do you can too? Do you have a secret map, Fiery? How did you do that? How the hell? I'm dropping shit, bro. How did you do that? That is actually crazy. Okay. Um, Evil Leafy keeps chasing. Evil Leafy, I mean, yeah, bro. Yeah, did you think Evil Leafy was gonna to die? You're like, them on, they've already made oh my god, is Evil Leafy dead? Oh my god, did we kill Evil Leafy? Like, no. No, we didn't. We did not do that. That is not a thing that will ever happen. Evil Leafy has got self-regenerating property. So, okay, fair enough. And yeah. Whew, that is BFDI 21. We have got one more episode to watch. It is the biggest, I think, BFDI episode to date. If I'm not mistaken, BFDI 23 is currently scheduled. No, is gonna be quite a bit longer. I think it was set to be longer than the Teapot episode, which is interesting. It's like 50 minutes or whatever. So it's a relatively extensive episode here. However, before that, we need Leafy hosting BFDIA 22. I'm the main character. Let's talk about it, and let's finally get all caught up with BFDIA. Because I'm low-key kind of tired of watching. No, it's good. It's good, but I get tired. Okay, all right, let's go. Okay, I have just watched BFDIA 22. I'm the main character. Talking about this episode is gonna take an industrial amount of time. Oh my god, it is so long. One of the longest videos I think we've taken a look at in recent history of the Catchup. While I'm here, should I just check what is the longest video that we covered on Catchup? Because I think it's probably Teapot 20, right? Yeah, it's either Teapot 20 or one of the latest episodes. I know that there were very long episodes of like Oido episodes are pretty long. There was like that 40-minute, yeah, that Dibs episode 1, animatic, right? Then animatic one or something be like this long. But yeah, I mean, it definitely ends up being quite a situation when you have these long ass episodes to discuss and to talk about here. However, we are indeed reaching the final stages. 25 probably going to be the very last episode. Very, very, very likely to be so. And we start off here with the rebuilding of the Yo-Yo Highway. So they end up rebuilding the Yo-Yo Highway with Bomby dying. Um, they have a hydraulic press which they throw out there. They try to get the door open. It doesn't really work. But then eventually they manage to host it. And the LOL, you know what? The LOL managed to find Leafy, which is more than... I thought that was like hard to do, right? Wasn't that the idea? Wasn't that like the thing? Like Leafy was like hard to find. He was like mysterious, like there the entire time. I mean, to be fair, not like Leafy was exactly very hidden, you know, but like, no, not like if he was very much so in hiding right now. But I'm surprised that they do that. But yeah, the fellas in the LOL just dropped them a little cupcake, going like, "Yo, Leafy, you're the host, so you know." Hey, there is actually a leaf flavor. Hey, you know what? They gave her a cupcake. That's like pretty nice, right? I mean, cupcakes are like pretty good. I mean, I'm not necessarily against Leafy getting a cupcake. But yeah, Leaf ends up getting the host, and Leaf is going to be taking this opportunity too. But bright side, however, first we end up having the Dream Island gets rebuilt by Pin and Coiny because they destroyed it for the sake of the other challenge. It's interesting how important Dream Island is now that we're getting into the late season. That one specific Dream Island ends up becoming, because it is so it's like a thing that happens. Yet again, I find it funny when one detail that's always been a thing ends up not mattering for a very long time until now it suddenly does. That always strikes me a little bit as writing conveniency. I'm not gonna lie, because so you like they completely forgot that they're battling for a pointless island for like half the time, and now you remembered, and now you're writing. Okay, I see you. I'm gonna be honest. I don't think this episode was present at any meetup or anything, which is kind of impressive considering this is definitely the type of episode which I'd expect to see somewhere like that. Has so many moments, so many like shock waves that it's trying to send to the viewers, right? It's trying to be an iconic episode, even though it is not one made for any special occasion like BFDI 23, which is of course going to have the feeder releases. They have this, but they're going to probably release like every episode of feeders. But yeah. Eventually, we end up having the viewers. Yeah, no, we end up having the cake and steak. The cake and steak intro remains, which I am a big fan of the cake and steak intro, as previously said. Is this the best one ever? Maybe of others. The original ones are honestly pretty good. Like the way that they sort of picked up from each other was really nice. Like every intro felt like it was sort of commemorating the other in a way by improving it. And I mean, this intro is fine. It's very good. However, it might not get GOAT status because it's not really implementing on the other cake and steak intros, um like a little bit, because it's showing a bunch of elements from the competition and stuff. But like, where's Lewis? Lewis had like the most amount of total cake and steak time or whatever. Again, Lewis. So I mean, where is that fella? Where did they go? I don't know where they went, but they went somewhere. Then we have our cake and steak. Corny and Pin try to get out. Pin, of course, agrees that yeah, they're probably out. Everybody else is safe, pretty clearly. And then we have some votes which get blocked up by Leafy, which appears. Somehow, the fish monster doesn't know who Leafy is. When it's like, wait, were you not there? I thought the entire point that you were intently looking at the cake at steak. I thought that was what you were doing, fish monster. Did you not read Leafy? Were you sleeping through the cake at steak time? And why did you want to be there so bad, bruh? Come on, bruh. What the hell are you doing, bruh? Fish monster, what are you doing? I thought you were there looking at the cake. I said you thought that you were lying and probably playing Subway Surfers on your phone. Nah. But eventually, Leafy shares the votes, which ends up being none other than Coiny safe with 109,000 likes, brother. That has to have some crazy analytics. That is maybe the most amount of individual likes for one person that I've seen, bro. Well, that's actually crazy. Like, just to freaking reiterate how many likes that is. That's more likes than there are on this video, not this one that you're watching, on like BFDI 22. Like just the episode itself, 83,000 likes. But Coiny's video themselves on the BFDI 21 voting has no, not on the 21 voting. On the 20 voting, end up having some more likes in this episode, which I think is crazy. And then eventually, with the dislikes, Payne's video end up having mildly more dislikes than likes, which is quite surprising considering there's like literally like 3 times the total amount of likes that there are dislikes. But Payne ends up getting out at roughly double Coiny's results. I thought it was gonna be a little bit closer, but now Mean character gets out because Mean. Wow, wowzers! I am surprised. Are you surprised? Should we do a surprise party where we all act surprised? But yeah, goodbye, Pin. I mean, you're the epiphany of just kind of not great. So yeah, goodbye. Then we end up having host that tries to, act all nice with their friends and stuff, because Leafy just wants friendship points and all that jazz, which ends up being a little bit complicated. Okay, so the thing about Leafy is that, yeah, she's so focused on being nice and being friendly. Not necessarily being friendly, just being friends. It's like, it's what if friends were a competition? But Leafy was like really bad at it. That's like the debate. Is it? But even then, it's like if you were friends a competition, then surely the best tactic to have friends competitively would be to just have friends. To just go make friends. Like it wouldn't really do that. But the thing about Leafy is that Leafy tries to competitively make friends by like being like, oh my, isn't this so epic, guys? Guys, isn't this so exciting? Are we so friendly right now? Are we best friends? Are we epic? And it's like, bro, stop. You gotta just do stuff, and then you see, you know. We've tried to force somebody to be your friend. It doesn't work. So that's kind of the thing about Leafy. And Leafy ends up having at the end of the day, Leafy ends up having such a one-track mind that it ends up kind of disdaining her character as a whole, to be honest, because you don't really get to see a. Because the thing about Leafy is Leafy ends up having a one-track mind in terms of personality. You wanna know why? Because they combine the evil and bad, right? Because Leafy combines where like when Leafy's being nice, that means she's being mean at the same time. That's the thing about Leafy. So that, and then when Leafy's being mean, she's being mean. But that means that Leafy doesn't have modes of nice and rude and like kind or dishonest, right? Like Leafy is just always both. Is always a nice, like a mean person trying to be nice. That's what Leafy always is, which means that you end up having only one modality at all times. Because whether Leafy's actually nice or Leafy's actually mean, that doesn't matter because they both mean the same thing because they are equals, right? When it comes to Leafy's personality, which makes her feel sometimes a little bit inferior, quote unquote, to a lot of the other cast members in terms of how they're currently being written, because the other ones have so much more variety to the way that they act, rather than here where they just completely don't. Then we end up having the challenge, which is to have a claim the most territory as with Leafy. So basically, you will bring Leafy to a place. If Leafy enjoys the place, then you get a flag. All right. Challenge ends when Leafy runs out of flags. Okay. So then, I mean, they're of course going to be doing the challenge, right? Because that's pretty solid, right? So that's one flag. But then slowly, as time passes, we end up having more and more and more flags come in, which is like, oh god, oh, I see what's happening. Like we say, oh, when you run out of flags, you made a lot of flags, didn't you? So that ends up being quite a bit more complex. For some reason, every time that the flag slams down onto the ground, it causes like a miniature earthquake because these are the most powerful flags of the century. I don't know why they're so unbelievably powerful that they end up freaking shattering the earth. Mount Everest gets to mention. I think yesterday Jack and Jellyfy tweeted something like, "Yo, Mount Everest is a contestant, but they're too big to ever participate in BFDI," which I think is the most random little tidbit and factoid that I think I've probably ever seen. But I mean, that's kind of fun, It's kind of fun little knowledge. Maybe we can vote Mount Everest in next time. Will we ever have a new season vote like the one in BFDI? I don't know. We'll have to see sometime. But oh well, it's just kind of the question. These are the questions that we're getting asked. What happens post Teapot? What happens post BFDIA? Because like we're starting to get there on both. I mean, we're starting to get there on the BFDIA case. BFDIA, of course, only has like 3 more episodes to go. And then in this case, we have BFDIA and then Teapot. Well, Teapot isn't necessarily nearby to finishing, it feels nearby to finishing mainly just because what is going on over there? Is that show even ending? Like, I don't know if that show's ending in the traditional sense, right? So it might have like just a couple more episodes and then it just ends prematurely before winner gets found out. Because for Teapot, I mean, what the hell's going on? That's surely gotta be. So in that scenario, it's like, yeah. But what are they gonna do post BFDIA and Teapot? I don't really know. It's gonna be very curious to find out because of course they did have Cam or whatever, Grandfather Clock and Metronome, which had its first episode. It was well received, to be honest, and I think it did well as a YouTube short. I mean, considering it's a YouTube short and very few people saw it, it got like 800,000 views, right? So it's pretty. That's good, right? But yeah, I have no idea what's going to be happening next because we haven't had a new season in ages, especially if you consider that Teapot is technically BFB2, then like you can really imagine that there hasn't been a new season like 2017, which is absurd. Okay, anyways, we have logo designers get to work. They haven't had to design a team name in a while because we've not had teams, so we've had a little bit of an excuse to design Alliance's name, like with the contract teams. So yeah, the boys team, but that looks like a brand logo of a boys team. That looks like the logo for some freaking like clothing brand. It's like, yes, the boys. We specialize in men's clothing, and you can buy a suit and a tie, and dare I even say, leggings. Something of that caliber. But anyways, what the hell am I saying? We start bringing Leafy to places, yay, such as the canyon and stuff. And Oh, thing, we got Kevin McLeod was somehow still here. Kevin McLeod, you really got nothing better. I'm surprised. Like the other guys ain't coming back. the other guys haven't come back like that many times. Pineapple's been on like 3 episodes, I guess, but that's like a fellow YouTuber. Wait, Kevin McLeod, you're truly just one for the team, bro. Shout out to you. Shout out to Kevin McLeod, the GOAT. Just voice actor now because why not? um. But yeah, we end up having the voting. Leafy, of course, enjoys it. The flag is placed down. We have a new mobile made out of Mount Everest parts that Tennis Ball happens to have built somehow. Then they end up going to Yo-Yo Land, which they have done that. Then Goiki Highway is rebuilt. I like how it's rebuilt, but significantly more boring. But hey, what's a Lewis? So, you know. That I don't know where were they at when we saw it, because the thing about Gogi Highway is it doesn't have an uphill. Like, look at it, it just freaking I don't know where the hell that uphill that they were originally building for the Gogi Highway even was meant to be. But okay, then there's a hole in the ground. Of course, now we get into, I guess, one of the main gags of the episode. So one of the main gags of this episode is, of course, the unanimous joke that, hold on a minute, that the road happens to not be longer than the hole, and the car can absolutely, and the car's wheels are further spaced apart than the hole itself, so it's not going to actually fall. But The joke is that there's just a global not understanding of this concept. And you know what? Sure, that's fine. I mean, I'm gonna point it out, obviously, because you could walk around it. But okay, if we're presuming that that's the joke is that it's impossible, then yeah. The gap ends up being apparently Woody sized, like perfectly Woody sized. And you know what? Somehow, some way, some method, we actually do have a fella out here that remembers it, which is Tennis Ball, because Tennis Ball the goat did remember about Woody, which seems to be a global problem, I must say. Other people are not really remembering Woody, but yeah, they eventually get Woody, and Woody ends up being part of the whole, but they end up crossing it. But it just so happens that every single time there's a step taken on Woody, Woody ends up going falling a little bit more, because of course that downwards force and shit. So yeah, you know what they say about Woody? Like, Woody has historically always been, a little scaredy cat character. Um, because that's just how they've kind of always been. However, to be fair, in certain situations, they've got a point. I mean, imagine being Woody, and after they revived you, they decided to put you dangling off of a cliff, and then at some point soon, there will be in your inevitable demise. It's like, it's like, wait, hold on, that's not fun. That's not good. I'd be scared too. I'd be scared for life. Only talking screams until random be a beat pranking heals you or whatever. Like, yeah, that makes sense. Um, then we end up having a bunch of places in Yoyo Land that Leafy doesn't like, because yeah, Leafy's been in Yoyo City for a while. But hey, we got a flag anyways, because Leafy just is gonna give flags out. I mean, you got 1 billion, so yeah. Then we find out one of Pin's greatest secrets, which is what Pin oozes on pig yum, which is certainly one of the sentences of all time. But apparently we take huge advantage of the fact that book is apparently Leafy's diary. How? Okay. With the thing about book, okay, book is indeed supposedly, okay, everything at the same time. Book is supposedly every book at the same time. Sure, except the lyric song. But sure. But like, how is that possible? How are you Leafy text? How are you Leafy's diary? How do you do that? I need knowledge. I need is bullet telepathically, because like you could theoretically just like print out Wikipedia, put it in a book, and then you would have a book of everything just like book does, right? Sure. But like you can't just do that with a diary. Like what the hell? But okay then. We'll go with it. All right then. Um in this case, Corny ends up being below the van and tries to steer it away. However, Onions reduce nausea, so Leafy takes advantage of this. Now Nico has a circle hole. Yeah, let's go. Shout out to Nickel. Now Nickel's what? We got square, we got triangle, we got circle. We're learning the shapes out here with Nickel. What's next? The rectangle? Rectangle coming soon? Here we go. I mean, at this point, this was freaking, we're arriving. Then by this point, we're roughly around the middle of the episode, where we're just kind of just trying to bring Leafy to tons of places, right? We start to figure out what's going on with the whole situation. Oh yeah, you have the hot and cold, which really doesn't work because Leafy is like just extremely sensible, but to like every type of temperature because it's a fucking leaf. So yeah, that makes sense. And then we find out that yeah, with every flag that Leafy's placing, slowly but surely, we're kind of, pew, the earth is starting to crack. Earthquaking coming, and then that's all good. That's not good. We don't like earth. We don't like earthquakes. Earthquakes. That's not a word. I added an e to that word. I don't know why I did that. I don't know why I added an e to that word. Do you know why I added an e to that word? I don't know why I added an e to that word, but I did. um. But anyhow, apparently we have a couple of things. Oh yeah, Pin is in the meanwhile just trying to help the people in the tornado. I mean, the tornado just sort of ends itself naturally, if I'm not mistaken. The drill ends up landing to who? Bro, I don't know. We have to be fair, Leafy and Pin do the same thing. Where it's like, yo, if you, bro, this Leafy fella is crazy. Did Gelatin kill Leafy 2 years ago? What did Gelatin do? I was trying to remember this. I was like, oh no, okay. So I mean, here we're in like 2015. I mean, in 2013, Gelatin killed Leafy. Did you do that? Did you? I cannot remember that at all. In original BFDIA. Well, Leafy was fucking not there in original BFDIA. She escaped. What? How did Gelatin? How did you do that? Is that an actual thing that happened? Okay, that's interesting. What? Okay, that's interesting. But anyways, they eventually go around the Earth. They have they play at a mall, whatever. They yet again use coiny as a currency, which is interesting. There's Death Row, which gets tennis balls with the Crusher, which is quite fun. Woody starts progressively getting a bit more scared that the Earth is starting to crumble, which you know what, fair enough. Leafy is once more just slowly making the earth crumble by placing flags literally everywhere. Apparently, Tennis Ball gets to see Dream Island, which, that's like pretty cool. I think Dream Island is still a thing, but I thought you saw Dream Island. That not what happened? You saw Dream Island? Isn't Dream Island gone? Like, I thought that was what you did. Okay, you stole Dream Island. No, you bought Dream Island. Oh no, you didn't sell Dream Island. The announcer sold Dream Island to Leafy for like $2 billion. So now Leafy technically has it, which is interesting. Why did nobody ever just let go like Leafy? Yo, can you give us the island? That's not even that you could do. Like just let us on the island. I don't know. Man, if Fiery doesn't get let on the island, that's like fair enough. But if everybody else gets let on the island, then that's like okay. But anyways, I mean, I don't even know where the hell were we. I had to take a tiny break. Oh yeah, we were talking about the fact that Leafy gives an island to absolutely everybody. I find it interesting how the eldritch alien beings are just on Earth now. I wonder if they're enjoying it down there. I feel like they're probably not having a very enjoyable time down there. I'm not gonna lie. I feel like they probably, yeah, no, it's probably not going well. But the earth is starting to shatter, and then this moment is when they discover that there's an infinity of flags, because Leafy's tactic is if everybody just hangs out with me, then there will be infinite flags and it'll be great. But yeah, no, that's actually not how that works. And I mean, it is how that works technically, but yeah, Leafy ended up with 1 quadrillion flags, and they got like, we gotta smash them. So then they thankfully end up having a crusher with Nickel on it, and Nickel ends up helping out, but they end up doing that, which I mean, it works for some reason. They never have the idea of putting multiple things into the crusher. Like, I don't know why they couldn't put two flags at the same time. They have to do one by one, like flag, boom, flag, boom, flag, boom, flag, boom. But no, you couldn't put multiple things. That was illegal. That was banned. Okay, I guess that's banned. Um, but like, surely the crusher could crush multiple things. That felt like inefficiency. Come on, you had to crush millions of flies. You gotta be efficient. Crush like 3 flies at the same time, bro. Put them side by side, you know. Um, but oh well, we get to see a couple of cool places. I mean, we take advantage to, of course, show off a couple of places from other segments, such as, for example, the Pillory Wonders. Look at the Pillory Wonders. We haven't been here in so long. We haven't been here since BFB eventually happened. Remember BFB? Right, so we take advantage of that. The LOL ends up having a gap in it now, so that's probably going to be important. Then we end up having, oh yeah, the hydraulic press with nickel on it. Then we got Pin. Pin ends up having an idea. So Pin has this new idea dropped, okay, from Pin. Oh yeah, that was something's fishy joke. But the joke here, by the way, Leafy can teleport, but I guess you could always do that. But so Pin's idea is, yo, I was supposed to win, because I was supposed to be like, oh, they took everything from me, and I rose from the ashes, and I won the competition. I was nothing, and I became everything. That was the art the Pin was imagining, which is an arc that exists from time to time. However, the problem is that you have to go from nothing and rise up with humility. You kind of gotta be humble when you do that, which is not what Pin is. Pin eventually ended up gaining the freaking pieces back, right? Ended up gaining the getting her limbs back with the mech suit and whatever, right? No limbs, but I guess there's still no limbs. But she just ended up being like, I want revenge, right? Kind of like Ice Cube. How Ice Cube will be super brutally honest and mean, regardless of whether it's gonna help her out or not. But Pin, while doing that, ends up becoming super socially outcasted because it's like, hold on, why the hell would I be friends with you? You hate my guts for no reason, right? Even if apparently you won't swing with Ice Cube that one time, which by the way, when did that happen? I still I've been trying to remember in the past episodes. That's why I've not actually mentioned it. When does that happen? When is that rejection? When is it? When did it happen? I don't remember that happening. Do you remember that? I'm sure it happened, but I don't remember. Every time I think about it, I think about it in BFB, where right, like somebody gets rejected, but like freaking BFDIA get rejected off the swing. I don't, I don't know. I gotta admit, I cannot currently remember. But yeah, Pin decides I'm gonna demolish the island because I made it. I get to own it. I get to have it. I am sensing some BFB 30 flashbacks in this reasoning. That's why the announcer wanted the island. Remember, the announcer wanted the island because it's mine. I should deserve to have what is mine. It's the only treasured possession that I possibly have. Then it's like, okay, really doing this thing again. But okay. I mean, it's a little bit goofier now because, of course, the BFDA isn't that important in terms of at the end of the day, they forgot that they were battling for it literally the entire time. So, yeah. Everybody else, however, from Sweet Smart is also there because they went to the hit showing of Pin's Ooze on Pig Yum, the hit thing. So the most embarrassing secret of all time. Interesting idea of golf ball. Produce an embarrassment serum. I mean, I don't know why you would want that. Or so you can feel embarrassed anytime you want. Like that is that one of the things that you were looking forward to? I feel like that's not one of the things that we're looking forward to. But okay. Um. Then, yeah, Pin comes in trying to destroy the island with the garbage dispenser. They try to stop her with we fail to stop her. But, Pin's mind cannot be changed. Pin's mind cannot be changed. Except it suddenly can be changed. Do you want to know why? Because Pin is apparently the forgotten one of the season, Pin is the forgotten one of the season. The one who was supposed to win. And one that's the most mistreated. As if you didn't get the most design changes in the entire season. As if you didn't have the most, probably thumbnail space and lines in the entire season. You're you probably got by just being nothing more interesting character arc than everybody else combined at the same time. So what the hell, bro? Pin, what are you doing, man? What are you doing, girl? Like, but okay, I guess. We discovered that there exists a place called the Needle Name Pronunciation School. How many people go there? I need to know. I really want to know. Is that because one of the things that has never happened, one of the jokes that they have never made is remember we're here in a total society. Why has nobody never? No, sorry. Why has nobody never said the name Needy? It's just like somebody else, who's not around. Like how good is Needle's hearing of the word needy? Like if somebody over on the weird planet was like needy, would Nito just fucking fly up there, slap him, and come back down? That'd be interesting, wouldn't it? Um, But yeah, the Needle Pronunciation School is a place that exists now. You gotta remember, every time they make a joke place or a gag, you just know that they're bringing it back. If I'm telling prediction right now, right here, Needle Name Pronunciation School is appearing in the finale of BFDI. I'm telling prediction. If I am correct, give me BFD. I will win Demon Island. I get it. Okay, they belongs to me if my prediction is correct. All right, that's my bold prediction. This place will come back. All right, in the finale, but then we end up remembering Woody because Woody ends up falling down from Coiny's request because Coiny ends up stepping on them, which makes Woody fall down into the fire, which is apparently very important because uh I don't know why is it that important. You have recovery center. You have recovery center. To this day, dude, I don't know. That's kind of one of the things that feels a little bit awkward about the show. Always, it's just like the recovery centers make death important, but also not, right? Because hold on, one of the episodes, like just a couple of episodes ago, in the Beacon episode, right? One of the running gags was that Fries died about 8 times in that episode or something, and then in Teapot, Ice Cube and Varia have repeatedly died like 1 billion times. But like in general, it's like, oh, bro, how is it that this Woody death is super important? But you can't bring him back, you know. Like get a little bit of Blocky's Funny Doings International on your head, you know. Like you can't have too much Blocky's Funny Doings International. Like 2% Blocky's Funny Doings International. Come on, like if we really need Woody to become a permanent Doors, you can do that. You know, like at the end of the day, better than Woody being dead forever. I mean, would you rather Woody be dead forever or be on the ground? Or, you know, I like at least better to be on the ground, I guess. Um, but eventually, Pin ends up hearing Woody's name as one of the forgotten people, and randomly was like, "Yo, let's let's go save Woody," because Woody screamed, and it was like, "Well, he wasn't insulting to me. Well, that's mainly probably because this bro cannot speak." At least they can speak. They can speak in wow, you know, like wow. Like, how do you do a Woody voice? Wow, wow. No, that's not it. That is an interesting. Now that I think about it, Woody's voice is very interesting. I gotta hone in my voices a little bit more. I mean, it's hard to hone in my voices when I've been talking for 2 hours. Like, the vocal range progressively goes down. But anyways, what was I saying? Pin randomly is like, oh yeah, sure, Woody, the person that can't really talk to me, was kind of nice to me. I also known as was scared of me, but they're scared of everybody, so at least they're neutrally afraid of everything. Then you get to save them because that is the idea. And then after careful main reflection, we need to save the real main character, Woody. Even the other people in the cast have no idea what you're on about. Even the other people like Pin, are you dumb? And I mean, the answer is yes. Pin is very dumb, but like, wow, what the hell? So then they end up going down there. They do a noble act of sacrifice by throwing their jetpack mech machine to Woody, who ends up on the sky. But then they crush every flag except the final one because, of course, it is impossible to hold the conversation and do something at the same time. So that's why pressing the button, you just can't do it if you're talking to Leafy. You just cannot do it. Because I don't know. You just can't do it. I mean, like, I understand that maybe you're scared. Oh no, if I maybe crush it down, she's gonna be mean and get away with my channel. But at the same time, it's like, no, wait. But the rule set of the channel, you can't break the rule set of the channel directly, right? So it's like, if you crush the last thing, and especially Nichols there, have Nickel press the button. Nickel press the button, they crush it. It's Nichols' fault. No contestant did it. Technically didn't do it. You know, like it would have absolutely worked. That would have omega worked. That would have worked so hard. But okay, the final quest for the flag, they end up going to the core of the Earth, because they've apparently been to every location on Earth. You can apparently do the math on how many that is, which is apparently there's like, I don't know, 267 look. Oh my god, it's actually 267. Wait. Hold on, I just counted it. Wait, 80, 79, 79. No, because it's 80, 80, 80, 27. Oh, so it's like 265. Okay, whatever. But so there's about 265 possible places in the world. There exists no more, according to the BFDI Earth. So we know that now. So they decide to go to the core of the Earth because technically the core of the Earth is a place. I guess. So Tennis Ball ends up the tactic of dropping a drill down there because technically it counts. Coiny ends up going right in the midst of the lava with the pin body, right, which is there. Um, I don't know why Coiny is so scared of this, but it does make a very cool scene though. I love some scenes with silhouettes, right, when there's the silhouette with it and stuff. Um, Also, hold on. Wait. Oh yeah, didn't Needle randomly say who's the main character? BFDI Black Hole. That's the most random thing I've ever seen. Needle, you haven't even spoken to Black Hole as of the time of BFDIA. Needle hasn't ever even spoken to Black Hole. That's like crazy. I'm not even. No, wait. Who said Black Hole? No, I don't think it was Needle. Wait, who the hell said Black Hole? Hold on, because I just remembered that line right now, but I don't exactly remember who said it. Uh, Hold on. No, that was at the beginning of the episode. No, not right now. Yeah, it was when thinking like who should be in the gap. Right? It was like Black Hole, which is interesting. Wait, who even said it? No, it was Coiny. Okay, I misremembered that completely. Wowie. Wowie zowie. But eventually the drill ends up completely drilling off Leafy after getting to the core of the Earth. Because the problem of getting to the core of the Earth that you can't place a flag on the core of the Earth. That's a little bit exaggerating. I'm not gonna lie, I'm super surprised is that the drill did not just drill the core of the Earth and then the Earth exploded. I'm not gonna like it. It was looking pretty rough. I think that's probably their intention to make it seem that was gonna happen. Wait, shit, the Earth's gonna explode. I gotta say, the core of the Earth looks very pretty. Look at the core of the Earth. It looks like a Mac OS logo. You know the Mac OS logos? Those like circles, like those Mac OS or iOS logos with like the colors and shit. That it looks like one of those. It looks like the color of like a fucking Apple like device thing, which is nice. But then eventually, Book tries to save, doesn't get saved, gets burned. Leafy ends up freaking dying and being decimated. Book ends up dying from flames. The Needle's at the bottom of the world, and then at the end of it, the challenge ends right there. With Needle being forever stuck down there until, I mean, they eventually die. I think they get crushed, right? Because as a bossy bot golf ball said, the Earth closes itself back up within 5 minutes, which is interesting how it can just do that. But that means that. By the way, very very cute little voting screen, I must say. Look at how Book looks. Come on. That's cute. BFF immune. It's probably because like Leafy drew it, so that's kind of fun. Or at least the idea is that Leafy drew it. So who wins the prize? Who gets eliminated? This is probably the debate that everybody's wondering about here for BFDI 2030. If it even has the elimination, which I think they said the details. I don't remember if it did. Because I know they specified. Let me quickly check if I can find this quickly, but I probably cannot. I probably should have, to be honest, done the research beforehand. However, sometimes in life the things don't quite pan out how you expect them to. It's called Shattered, where everything is like shattered. The biggest episode, the final challenge. Okay, well, I mean, if there's a final challenge, somebody gets eliminated. So, okay, yeah, if there's a final challenge, somebody gets eliminated. But who gets out, bro? Who was mean in this episode? Coiny? No, Coiny wasn't mean in this episode. Was Book mean in this episode? Book was like mildly mean. I think is it Book's time? I feel like it's Book's time to go. Because Coiny has the thing with Pin. Or is it bad? Or the Pin hate could possibly... I mean, I don't know how much Pin hate there is, but it could technically drop down onto Queenie. So Queenie would have a chance of being eliminated. Book flops the challenge massively and does eventually sneak. I'm saying book out. Book out Needle Prize. Book out Needle Prize. That's my prediction. Yeah, I could see Queenie getting out if people really dislike Pin. It's like, I hate Pin. No Pin. Get you out of here so that we have no more Pin because Pin destroyed Dream Man. So but what if that is what we're doing? What if we are voting Coiny because people dislike Pin and just want to see the Pin's friend get out as well? What if that is what we're doing? I don't know. I mean, oh shit. Is it what? Oh god. But now I think it's Coiny. Now I want to change my mind. Now I want to change my prediction, my guess to Coiny, because it just feels right. Shit. I'm making such a good point that Pin did so bad. But it's not Queenie's fault. But Queenie's associating. Are you guilty by association? And where you were mean, you did drop Woody in. Oh god. And you try sticking needle in the face. Okay, no. Change plan. Queenie's out. Prediction, Queenie gone. I have no idea. But prediction, Queenie gone. I'm changing my mind. It's Queenie or Book. I'm gonna lead on Queenie this time. I'm leaning on Queenie. My prediction is Queenie. For the Pride Needle. Needle gets the Pride. Needle was so nice in this. Needle was sweet. Try use advantage of her, but like she didn't make tennis balls or anything rude. She didn't do like she wasn't like, oh, tennis ball, I would like you to follow me every step of my way. Like when you do that, oh, I'll do whatever you ask type thing. It's not like Needle was like abusive of it. It's not like tennis ball, go buy me a sandwich. Like it's not like it's like that's not a thing that she ever did. So she was relatively kind with it. I mean, she used it for her own advantage in the game, right? That makes sense. But hey, that's what you did. You agreed to a pact and be like, hey, don't win so that I can try to win, right? So yeah, I mean, tennis ball still wins at the end of the day, but yeah, I'm saying Coiny out. I'm saying Coiny out. And yeah, so BFDIA heading into tomorrow, the final challenge, because theoretically we have the final challenge. Somebody gets eliminated. Episode 24 ends up having ourselves there's just some kind of interaction episode, and then the vote to win. And episode 25 ends up being the finale with the winner announced, and then they get their BFDIA and everything. So that's all cool. Now, did I enjoy my time watching BFDI? I'm not gonna lie, it is probably a little bit tiring to me to watch all of to watch like this much BFDI in one day. Like these past 2 days, I've had to watch a lot of BFDI. It's definitely an enjoyable series, but it is definitely one that's long. Now, BFDI is just kind of long. So many episodes are 20 minutes that, yeah, watching BFDI fully, I don't recommend marathoning it. I mean, it depends how big you are on marathon, but I don't recommend marathoning something like BFDI because it's just long, But, hey, if you got the brain for that, I'm not quite a marathonical brain, right? So that's why I try to not take a look at too many things. Somebody's being loud. But, sorry, not being loud in the other. Sorry for background noises, by the way. When I do more professional stuff, I try to not have those playing in the background. I like time it out, re-record. But with these videos, since there's so much time that I end up talking for, it's like, if you hear something in the back, like, ignore it, okay, please. But anyways, yeah. But I don't recommend it watching this much BFDA in the past 2 days, because I had to watch like 5 hours and then talk about it for another 5 hours. So in general, I've had BFDIA related things on my mind for like about 10 hours. So yeah, I mean, it ends up being a double up. So, oh well. Anyhow, this series is good. Who do I think is gonna win? Should I make a winner prediction right now? I'm gonna make. Of course, BFDI 23 is still gonna happen. The winner of this season gives me kind of Book vibes. I feel like Book might win. I feel like Book wins. I don't know what it is about it. Book kind of gives me BFDIA vibes. Because even though Book is a character in Teapot and stuff, Book feels at home here, right? In the way where they're kind of new, they haven't had the BFB happen, and a lot of people hate Book around the BFB era, right? because they're just randomly hating and weird and stuff, right? So it's like absolute haters, right? So then book in BFB and Teapot super different because of those whole relations and taco and whatever the hell. So that means that book, the best book, peak book, is right here. Right here at this moment. For Coiny or Needle or Tennis Ball, you can debate, even though a lot of people prefer Tennis Ball and Coiny here. I think Needle's kind of okay. Needle's so and so. Um, I think Nito also stands out. All of these top four do kind of probably stand out in BFD a bit more. I think Book stands out the most. Free Smart probably should have a winner at some point. One of the proper Free Smart members, because they've never actually gotten a dub. Because of course Fiery won, then Flower won, and in Teapot, look, I don't know who's winning Teapot. Is anybody winning Teapot? One has won Teapot. But yeah, Book is looking like my winner prediction, especially considering there's gonna be sympathy votes of like, oh, Book does bad but still survives, and it's like, nah, I think Book survives. So I'm saying Book if you don't get eliminated here. If Book doesn't get eliminated here, I'm seeing great chances of survival because I predicted Corny. However, if Book gets eliminated here, then it's GG. I feel like this is if Book gets past this elimination, then I think we got great chances of winning. In my opinion, we got great chances of winning because this is where Book fits best. But because then we eliminate like Tennis Ball or something with the big fan base. Then we got Needle Book and Book wins with the last episode being like, I've been under for so long, nobody liked me. So that's my probable prediction. I think it's bold. I don't know who like objectively has the best chance of winning, but probably Tennis Ball, because Tennis Ball ends up having that both BFDIA and Teapot double up. But oh well, that's my current thesis on what I think is going to happen in BFDIA. But other than that, I'm excited. It's going to be the longest BFDI episode ever, even bigger than Teapot 20. You online feeders are already capable of watching BFDIA 23. Was it good? Okay, I'm glad you answered. But we have sorry, but we end up having ourselves the main attraction, which is gonna be that for tomorrow. Let's pull off here an outro because I'm sorry. I could talk. I kind of want to talk about BFD a bit more, but I'm also tired. Oh my god, this is nearing on one of the longest episodes. I think it's probably I think it's the third longest catch-up episode, and it's a part 2. This is the longest catch-up episode, and it's a part 2, bro. Oh my god. BFDIA is so unbelievably long, bro. Somebody needs to stop it. Okay, alright. Let's do an outro. Okay, so that is all for today's episode. I was too tired. I almost considered maybe taking a quick peek at something else because I did kind of have time, but like in general, it's like, bro, I'm tired. I'm tired. I've done an Omega episode for the past 3 days in a row, debatably 4 or even 5 if you consider that the other ones are 150 in length. BFDI is long. It's arduous as in it gives you a lot to think about, a lot to say, a lot to think about. It is one of the big boys. So I'm taking the stance right here. We're taking the pause right here. And BFDIA, we're officially all caught up for it so that we can get ready tomorrow for the BFDIA. Hey, it might have been a little bit frustrating for some people who want to see their show covered. Hey, I respect it to have BFDIA take over so much time, but hey, that'll be the only time we ever need to cover these episodes. Like, that's the thing. I give episode equal coverage because I'm not talking about it again. I'm never talking about BFDA 22 in this depth again because it's not releasing again, which means that, like, it's a one and done. Everything is a unique thing that is happening. Which means that, hey, if it takes a day, it's okay. We'll get to it the next, like at the end of the day, I'm covering everything weeks late anyways because of just how many shows are releasing. I've underestimated the Obla Show community, I must say. So here, heading into like BFDA 23, hey, it's gonna happen, and eventually other big shows are gonna release, and they're gonna be doing the thing. But in general, we're gonna be all done with Jack Jellyfy. We're gonna be all caught up with with anime. I mean, with animation, my Epic is already all caught up. We might need to make one special for season 1 remaster if I end up watching that. Still haven't decided. I guess I'll decide when it releases. Animatic Battle we're all caught up. Invasion, Lockdown. Like, we're really getting there. There's a couple of big shows that we're definitely missing, like quite a lot. But like in general, I'm again, as I've mentioned in a couple of outros, just 3EE I'm quite worried about because like the third season's like, oh god, like the Web's Web show. But not because I'm scared of watching. I'm just scared like how much time that would take me. But in general, yeah, that is what I've got to say. We will get to it all. I promise. I subscribe to every channel I cover, so like I have subscriptions. I can check what videos you release. So we're good. For Object Sember, I might cover it. I'll check more. I'll check more thoroughly exactly the status of me and the things that I watch to properly have that knowledge. And all right, that is all for today. For BFDIA today, we're all caught up today, but not tomorrow, because tomorrow we take a look at BFDIA 23 for the final romp of our 3-day excursion to BFDIA. Tomorrow, depending on exactly my availability, we may also cover some of the new episodes, the ones from further back that, of course, we haven't been able to take a look at throughout the past week. However, we will get to it in due time. All right, we're all caught up. Goodbye.